The mysterious man who makes love to me every night, who could he be? In the middle of the night, in the luxurious master bedroom, Shu Ziji was drowsily sleeping on the European-style big bed. She only felt her body getting hotter, as if something heavy was pressing down on her, making it harder and harder to breathe. Oh, she wanted to exhale, but her lips were suddenly blocked. A slippery tongue slipped into her mouth, cutting off her breath. She opened her eyes in surprise, and in the darkness, she saw a man looming over her. The man was tall and muscular, pressing down on her so she couldn't move. Who are you? Shu Ziji screamed in fright, but she found her hands forcefully pinned above her head by the man. The man didn't give her a chance to speak. He fiercely bit her lip again, his grip merciless. It hurts. Woo! Shu Ziji cried out in pain, unable to believe that such a thing could happen to her while she was sleeping at home. Little did she know, this pitiful voice was like the strongest aphrodisiac, driving the man on top of her into a further frenzy, his movements becoming uncontrollable. Before she could gasp in surprise, the man had already bitten down on her neck. Hiss! Shu Ziji inhaled sharply in pain, frowning as she tried to push him away. However, the man pressing down on her remained unyielding, his large hand gripping her slim waist. His hot lips slid along her fair, elegant neck, trailing down to her soft earlobe. Shu Ziji felt a current of electricity surge through her body, her muscles tensing involuntarily as her hands instinctively grasped the sheets beneath her. The man seemed to love her reaction, becoming even more forceful. Shu Ziji intended to resist and shout, but her words transformed into suggestive sounds. She felt an uncontrollable desire rising within her. It terrified her yet thrilled her. She wanted to push the man away, yet at the same time, she craved even more. The man didn't give her a chance to hesitate, forcefully entering her body. Shu Ziji felt like a lone boat, dragged into this storm, struggling in the tumult. Why? Why was she experiencing this? Her husband was on a business trip and had not been home for nearly half a year. She had just received news from her in-laws yesterday that her husband would be returning this week. She had been so happy, looking forward to a sweet reunion with her husband, but instead, she found herself in this nightmare. So be it. She just hoped the man on top of her would finish soon, and that she could escape from this torment. However, it seemed the man sensed her passive resistance and suddenly changed his approach to tease her. Shu Ziji felt like she could die. This man was too wicked. Yet, her body was surprisingly compliant. Damn it, it must be because she hadn't had a man's touch in so long. How could she respond to such a strange and despicable man? Time passed, and Shu Ziji felt dizzy, her mind clouded. She should call for help, she should scream. If she yelled for help, the servants and bodyguards in the house would surely rush in. But no, she couldn't afford to lose face. The young mistress of the Mo family was violated on her own bed. Word of this would be utterly shameful. Moreover, the servants might not even believe her. It might reach her husband's ears while he was away on business, and he might think she was cheating. Shu Ziji was filled with rage since she couldn't resist. All she could do was force herself to enjoy it. Chapter 02, Who broke into her room? Although the man was robust, at a moment like this, even the strongest man could be a source of pain for a woman. Just as she was about to lose consciousness, the man's cold voice, panting heavily, whispered in her ear, "So, who's stronger, me or your husband?" Shu Ziji jolted awake, wanting nothing more than to use her long nails to claw at this detestable man's face. Unfortunately, the dim light made it impossible to see his face clearly. Her strength was already drained, her eyelids drooping, unable to open. And just like that, she fainted beneath the man. When she next awoke, the sun was bright. Shu Ziji blinked her lashes, pulling herself from a deep slumber. The first sensation was pain. Her body felt as if it had been run over by a truck, and her lower body felt like it was being torn apart. Even the slightest movement made her gasp in agony. Fragments of the previous night surged in her mind, and she abruptly sat up, throwing off the covers. To her shock, she was completely naked. The bruises and marks on her body were scandalously evident, clearly showing what had transpired last night. Boom. It felt as though a thunderclap had struck her, her heart sinking like a stone. So, everything that happened last night was real. It wasn't a nightmare. She had indeed been assaulted in her sleep. Shu Ziji clutched her head, unable to believe what had occurred. How could this happen? Who had slipped into her room last night? Who had done such a thing to her? She was already married. How was she supposed to face her husband now? Shu Ziji was filled with immense regret. Her first reaction was to get out of bed, rush into the bathroom, and wash away the evidence on her body. But just as she prepared to rise, her legs gave way, and she collapsed onto the floor. Thankfully, the carpet muffled the sound. This was it. She looked completely indulgent. Even with her husband, it had never been this intense. Last night's man had nearly drained her. Shu Ziji cursed him under her breath, gritting her teeth to stand up, though her legs still trembled. Outside the door, a maid knocked. "Madam, are you awake? Don't come in." Shu Ziji quickly snapped. If their maid saw her like this, it would be disastrous. They would definitely report back to her in-laws, who already disliked her if they discovered even a hint of her infidelity. Wouldn't that provide them the perfect excuse to throw her out? Even if their maid didn't report her, what had happened last night was tantamount to betrayal. Shu Ziji felt terrible inside. "Madam." The maid outside, confused, continued knocking. "Go away, I'm awake and will be down shortly," Shu Ziji shouted hoarsely. Finally, the maid left, and Shu Ziji let out a huge sigh of relief. Looking at the mess around her, with her underwear, bra, and shredded nightgown scattered across the carpet, it starkly revealed her betrayal. Shu Ziji wanted to cry out, but her lost innocence would not return. Quickly shaking off her tears, she realized that the man from last night couldn't have just broken into her room for no reason. Who on earth was he? What kind of scheme did he have against her? Shu Ziji quickly collected her emotions, tidied up the clothes on the floor, showered, and changed into a clean outfit before heading downstairs for breakfast. Hubby. In the dining room sat a man in a suit, whose back resembled her husband Mo Bei's so closely that Shu Ziji, at first glance, thought he had returned from a business trip. Excited, she rushed towards him, ready to pour out her grievances, but the man's sudden stiff posture and his chilling demeanor made Shu Ziji realize that she had misidentified him. Chapter 03, Mistaken Identity. He wasn't her husband, he was her husband's older brother, the ice-cold Mo Yuchen, the president of Huaren Group and the youngest billionaire in S-City. The handsome man turned to face her, his deep-set eyes as inscrutable as black obsidian, captivating enough to leave one breathless. His chiseled features seemed meticulously sculpted, a flawless perfection. He exuded an inherent aura of dominance. When Shu Ziji met his icy gaze, she involuntarily shivered. This man always wore a stern expression, inspiring both awe and fear. Since marrying into the Mo family, her greatest fear had been this older brother, making her cautious around him, afraid to speak loudly. "Brother." Shu Ziji awkwardly nodded at him, addressing him respectfully. Mo Yuchen narrowed his eyes slightly, observing her awkwardness, his handsome face inscrutable, a flash of unusual brilliance passing through his eyes. Millimeter. His gaze remained fixed on her, his deep eyes reflecting her uneasy expression, his refined features adding to the tension. Shu Ziji felt his intense gaze on her and couldn't help but look up. When their eyes met, his profound gaze was like a bottomless whirlpool, concealing all his emotions, deep and heavy, making it impossible to understand. The faintest hint of a smirk curled at the corners of his thin lips, almost imperceptible. Shu Ziji's heart raced, and she quickly lowered her head again. "Hubby." Suddenly, a melodious voice rang out behind them. A glamorous woman in a form-fitting red dress approached, revealing her shoulders. It was none other than Shu Ziji's sister-in-law, Mo Yuchen's wife Liang Ziru. Liang Ziru was a major star, recently having won a Best Actress award, now among the top-tier female celebrities. In the Mo family, Liang Ziru, the eldest daughter-in-law, was far more popular than Shu Ziji, the second daughter-in-law. Upon seeing Shu Ziji, Liang Ziru didn't even glance her way, walking over to Mo Yuchen with a smile, embracing him and playfully saying, "Hubby, I have an audition today. Will you take me?" Mo Yuchen hadn't replied yet when their mother-in-law, Shu Wenchen, entered the dining room with Mo Zhuohan, who was dressed in traditional attire. "Ziru, off to an audition again?" Shu Wenchen asked with a beaming smile upon hearing Liang Ziru's words. "Yes, Mom. This time it's for director Feng's new film, and he wants me for the lead role," Liang Ziru proudly responded. Shu Wenchen had been a Best Actress in her youth and shared a lot in common with Liang Ziru, so their conversations flowed easily. Admiring Liang Ziru's swift rise in the entertainment industry at such a young age, Shu Wenchen expressed her appreciation. "Ziru is impressive," Shu Wenchen praised, casting a glance at the stunned Shu Ziji standing nearby, her expression darkening. "Ziji, you should learn from Ziru. Yes, Mom. Shu Ziji felt embarrassed to refuse and nodded obediently. All right, let us eat, Mo Zhuhan declared, his authoritative presence demanding attention as he took his seat at the head of the table. The servants quickly served a sumptuous breakfast. Since marrying into the Mo family, Shu Ziji had been living outside with her husband, Mo Zishuan. Hearing that he would soon return from a business trip, she moved back to the Mo family's residence for a few days. She was not very skilled at handling such crowded gatherings. Her husband had always accompanied her, alleviating her pressure. Now, alone, she felt especially anxious. However, she still knew the proper etiquette at the dining table. She ate quietly, keeping to herself, while Liang Ziru proudly boasted to Xu Wenchen about her achievements in the entertainment industry, their voices dominating the table. Just then, a voice with rich magnetism broke the atmosphere in the dining room. Sorry, I'm late. Chapter 04, Flirtation Under the Table. The newcomer was none other than Mo Zhuhan's younger brother, Mo Zhuqian. Though he was Mo Zhuhan's brother by blood, he was much younger, being only a few years older than Mo Yuchen and still single. Zhuqian, out late again last night. Xu Wenchen frowned at him upon arrival. Despite his age, Mo Zhuqian was restless, frequently mingling with women and often missing family meals. Sister-in-law, you're wrong. I stayed home last night, right, Ziji? Mo Zhuqian grinned, his gaze fixed on Shu Ziji with a suggestive tone. Shu Ziji jolted, her heart racing. What did he mean by that? Could it be that the man from last night was him? At that thought, her face paled, her mind buzzing, frozen in place like a startled bird. Mo Zhuqian was her father-in-law's brother, making him her elder. If anything happened between them, it would be incestuous. This realization sent her thoughts into chaos, her body stiffening, her mind going blank. Ziji. Xu Wenchen noticed her silence and called out, snapping her back to reality. Shu Ziji seemed to zone out completely, lost in guilt, oblivious to her mother-in-law's calls or the stares from the table. Suddenly, someone under the table kicked her leg. Startled, she came to her senses. R. She instinctively glanced across the table at Mo Yuchen, from whom the kick had come. But when she looked, she found him sitting upright, calmly having breakfast, his handsome features serene and indifferent, exuding a chilling aura. That kick hadn't come from him. Was it someone else? The table was filled only with Mo Yuchen, her father-in-law Mo Zhuhan, mother-in-law Xu Wenchen, and sister-in-law Liang Ziru. Could it have been one of them who prompted her? While she pondered, Xu Wenchen's disapproving voice cut through. Ziji, what's wrong with you today? Spaced out. Your uncle was talking to you, and you ignored him. Mom, I'm sorry. I was lost in thought. Shu Ziji apologized awkwardly. Xu Wenchen's expression darkened. What could be so important? Zishuan has been on a business trip for 6 months now, right? I guess Ziji must be missing him, Mo Zhuqian teased, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes, light-heartedly trying to alleviate the tension. Shu Ziji froze, feeling even more embarrassed. When she met his gaze, he winked at her playfully, his expression mischievous. She felt a chill run down her spine, worried he might do something inappropriate in front of everyone. Quickly, she looked down, ignoring him. Such rudeness. Xu Wenchen shot her a disapproving glance, clearly displeased. Mo Zhuqian casually slid into a chair, hands in his pockets, a devil-may-care smile on his lips. The servants served him, but he didn't start eating, his intense gaze fixated on Shu Ziji. Her heart raced under his burning stare. Afraid the others might notice something amiss, she steeled herself and called out, "Uncle." As soon as she spoke, she felt a large male foot cover her foot under the table. Chapter 05, The Scandal of My Husband. Shu Ziji felt a jolt, her body trembling slightly, almost standing up. Who among all these people would dare to brazenly flirt with her? Ziji, what's wrong? Xu Wenchen noticed her changing complexion and frowned in confusion. Nothing. Shu Ziji shook her head in a panic, feeling a wave of guilt wash over her, causing her face to pale. Especially as she felt the foot under the table not only rubbing against her smooth foot but also sliding up her thigh, where her black stockings met her skin. She gasped, frozen like a statue. Sister-in-law Liang Ziru, observing her pale face, scoffed, "Mom, what else could be wrong?" She probably saw the gossip about Sichuan in today's newspaper. My husband's scandal? Shu Ziji's attention was instantly diverted, surprised as she looked at Liang Ziru. Looks like you didn't know. Liang Ziru snorted disdainfully, pulling out the entertainment section of the newspaper and tossing it at her. Shu Ziji caught the newspaper, and the entertainment section was nearly filled with rumors about her husband, Mo Zixuan, and another actress. Mo Zixuan, her husband, was not only the second son of the Mo family but also a hotshot A-list star who had established his own entertainment company. Since the family business had already designated the eldest son, Mo Yuchen, as the successor, Mo Zixuan, as the second son, only received a portion of the family assets. However, Mo Zixuan had never been interested in business, he loved the entertainment industry. So, the elder Mr. Mo funded his second son's entry into the field, allowing him to start his own company. It's just a rumor. Zixuan has had plenty of these over the years. Shu Ziji glanced at the headline, smiling faintly and brushing it off. She trusted her husband. Over the years, as both the owner of an entertainment company and a prominent star, many women had tried to leverage their careers by getting close to him, leading to various rumors. But Shu Ziji had never believed any of them. These baseless rumors were meaningless, she wouldn't let them make her doubt her husband. Doing so would only play into the hands of those scheming women. Ziji, you really are magnanimous, turning a blind eye to all of Zixuan's flings over the years. No wonder you've kept your position as Mrs. Mo for so long. Those women outside can't seem to take him away, Liang Ziru mocked her with a hint of sarcasm. Shu Ziji calmly replied, sister-in-law, you've had your fair share of scandals over the years, too. Your position as Mrs. Mo seems quite secure as well. You? Liang Ziru glared at her, her face alternating between green and pale. She had intended to ridicule Shu Ziji, only to be countered instead, leaving her seething with frustration. Just as she was about to retort, Mo Zixuan seized the opportunity to ask, Ziru, didn't you recently get caught vacationing in Singapore with some popular young star? His lips curled into an intrigued smile, with a hint of playful mockery in his eyes. Liang Ziru's expression froze as she hurried to explain, Uncle, I was just in Singapore for a shoot, and the reporters misinterpreted it. Really? Mo Zixuan raised an eyebrow skeptically, his enchanting demeanor still fixed on Shu Ziji. She pretended not to see the heat in his gaze, keeping her head down and focusing on her meal. But under the table, that same foot began to slide further up her thigh, moving towards her skirt. Shu Ziji's face flushed crimson, a mix of anger and embarrassment boiling inside her, yet she couldn't find the courage to speak up. She bit her lip, wanting to struggle free, but she couldn't escape. That wicked foot grew increasingly bold, the teasing motions becoming more and more audacious. Chapter 06, Uncle, let go of me. Shu Ziji struggled awkwardly, trying not to move too much for fear of disturbing her in-laws at the table. The more she tried to break free, the more that wicked foot became bold. It intentionally brushed against her inner thigh, causing her face to flush in waves of embarrassment. Mom and Dad, I'm full. I'll head to work now, she said, quickly finishing her breakfast and standing up to address her in-laws. Her father-in-law, Mo Zhuhan, nodded, indicating that she could leave. Just as she turned to go, she heard her mother-in-law's dissatisfied voice behind her. Such rudeness. The elders haven't finished eating, and she just leaves on her own. Exactly, Mom, don't stoop to her level. Sister-in-law Liang Ziru chimed in. Shu Ziji sneered to herself. After 2 years in the Mo family, she had grown accustomed to her mother-in-law's disdain and her sister-in-law's hostility. Their dislike for her was not without reason. Shu Ziji was the daughter of the Shu family, and there had been a marriage pact between the Shu and Mo families. Before marrying Mo Zixuan, she was originally the suitable fiancée of Mo Yuchen, the eldest son of the Mo family. At that time, her status as a rich heiress ensured that she was warmly welcomed by her mother-in-law, Shu Wenxin, whenever she visited the Mo family. However, everything changed when she was drugged at a friend's party and woke up in bed with Mo Zixuan, the second son of the Mo family, which was caught on camera by reporters. The scandal spread like wildfire, forcing the Mo and Shu families to hastily arrange her marriage to Mo Zixuan. After that incident, Shu Wenxin's impression of her soured drastically. She believed Shu Ziji was shameless for betraying her engagement to her eldest son. Though Shu Wenxin begrudgingly accepted Shu Ziji into the family, she always held a grudge. As for why Liang Ziru disliked her? Shu Ziji had once been engaged to Liang Ziru's husband, Mo Yuchen, and her privileged background only fueled Liang Ziru's resentment. Upon arriving at the Mo family garage, Shu Ziji found her car and was about to open the door when suddenly, a man's arm wrapped around her waist. "Smells so good." Mo Zhuqian pulled her into his embrace from behind, inhaling deeply near her neck with a contented sigh. "Uncle, let go of me." Shu Ziji's expression changed as she instinctively struggled. "Little temptress, how can you be so heartless? Who was it at the table that helped you out repeatedly? Have you forgotten so soon?" Mo Zhuqian didn't loosen his grip. Instead, he held her tighter, his handsome face inching closer, his enchanting eyes glinting with mischief. "What do you want?" Shu Ziji frowned impatiently, terrified that the Mo family's servants might witness this scene and not daring to scold him loudly. "What do I want? Don't you know?" Mo Zhuqian tightened his hold on her slender waist, pulling her soft body against him, his sultry gaze locked onto her, lips curling into a lazy, teasing smile. Shu Ziji's heart raced, and she quickly urged, "Uncle, please don't mess around." Being so close, she could feel his breath and the heady scent of desire emanating from him. "I'm just messing around, what about it?" Mo Zhuqian's lips curled into a playful arc, his gaze deep and alluring. Chapter 07, Tonight, in his room. Shu Ziji's heart skipped a beat. The memory of their intimate entanglement last night flooded her mind, leaving her gaze conflicted. Could last night's man have been him? "Uncle, last night Shu Ziji took a deep breath, about to clarify, when footsteps suddenly approached from behind. Upon hearing the noise, she tensed up and stopped asking questions. "Let go of me." She glared at Mo Zhuqian, silently signaling him to release her. If anyone from the Mo family saw them in this ambiguous situation in the garage, it would be impossible to explain. "Are you scared?" Mo Zhuqian observed her panicked expression, still gripping her waist tightly. His lips curled into a teasing smile, exuding an alluring charm. Shu Ziji furrowed her brows and instinctively struggled, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape his hold. Frustration built within her as the footsteps drew closer, causing her heart to race. "If you want me to let go, it's not impossible," Mo Zhuqian said, noticing her tension. He suddenly leaned in closer, his enticing face nearly touching hers. He lowered his voice to a magnetic whisper, dripping with seduction, "Unless you agree to come to my room tonight." Shu Ziji's expression changed instantly, staring at him in disbelief, her voice trembling with indignation. "I'm your niece-in-law. How can you do this to me?" "What do you mean?" Mo Zhuqian's playful eyes sparkled, and he smirked. "I just want you to come to my room." "What do you think I want?" Instinctively swallowing hard, she shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't think anything." Yet internally, she was furious at this insufferable man for being so deliberately ambiguous. "Or do you want me to do something else?" Mo Zhuqian's face inched closer, his lazy, seductive voice stirring her heart as he looked down at her with a fleeting spark in his enchanting eyes. "I don't want that, absolutely not." Shu Ziji nearly spat blood from frustration, shaking her head even more vigorously. Mo Zhuqian's gaze deepened, a charming curve at the corner of his lips, his voice gravelly and tantalizing. "Like fine wine, I know Zishuan has been on a business trip for almost 6 months. If you're feeling lonely, you can come find me. I can definitely satisfy you." "You?" Shu Ziji was momentarily speechless, her heart racing wildly. She never expected him to say such outrageous things. "Will you let go of me or not?" she demanded, fists clenching instinctively. "I'll be waiting for you in my room tonight," he said, lowering his head to her ear, his hot breath brushing against her face, voice hoarse and full of temptation. "But first, give me a kiss as compensation. Don't push your luck." Shu Ziji's face flushed, her lips trembling with indignation as she shouted. "If you don't want me to kiss you, I can kiss you instead." He raised an eyebrow, smirking playfully, his tone infuriatingly arrogant. Shu Ziji's chest heaved with anger. She had never encountered a man as shameless as Mo Zhuqian, her supposed elder. How could he so boldly tease his niece-in-law? Suppressing her dissatisfaction, she considered slapping him and walking away but realized that would only give him satisfaction. There was no way she would allow him to flirt with her without retaliation. With that thought, she forced a cold smile. "Uncle, why don't I, as the younger one, kiss you instead?" Chapter 08, She kicked him. Mo Zhuqian's charming peach blossom eyes sparkled with a glint of light. He thought she had come around. With a playful raise of his eyebrows and a slight smirk, he said, "Okay." Shu Ziji's gaze deepened, a sly glimmer flashing in her eyes. Leaning slightly closer, she tiptoed and placed her delicate hands on Mo Zhuqian's shoulders. "Uncle, here I come." She winked, a barely there smile curving her lips. Mo Zhuqian was momentarily stunned by her smile, freezing in place as if under a spell. Was this what they called a smile that could captivate a city? With a flirtatious grin, Shu Ziji continued to inch closer, blowing warm air against his handsome face. Mo Zhuqian felt a surge of electricity coursing through him, a flicker of desire igniting in his abdomen. Who was teasing whom? Why did he feel as though he was being flirted with? Mo Zhuqian, always carefree and flirtatious, had never encountered a woman who dared to provoke him like this. His deep-set eyes narrowed slightly, a rare interest blooming on his striking features. Shu Ziji wrapped her arms around his neck, her gaze sultry. The closer she got, the more she could feel his heated breath. When her red lips were just an inch from his, she clearly felt his arousal pressing against her. Bastard! She cursed inwardly, outraged. How could this man, her uncle by marriage, react to his niece-in-law like this? What a beast! Despite her disdain, Shu Ziji maintained a facade of coyness. "Uncle, close your eyes," she said, her lips parting in feigned innocence. Mo Zhuqian's gaze darkened, intrigued as he surveyed her, curious about her intentions. The moment he shut his eyes, Shu Ziji made a disgusted face, pretending to gag. "What are you doing? Hurry up and kiss me," Mo Zhuqian urged, his magnetic voice carrying an insistent heat. "I promise you'll never forget this kiss." Shu Ziji tilted her head back, a malicious smile playing at her lips. In the next second, she lifted her knee and kicked him hard in the groin. "Damn!" Mo Zhuqian gasped, completely unprepared for her boldness. "Isn't it a trendy pain these days? Quite unforgettable, right?" Shu Ziji laughed heartily, reveling in her revenge. But remembering how he had treated her the night before, she felt that just one kick was too lenient. Without mercy, she kicked him several more times, aiming for his backside. Mo Zhuqian was furious and utterly flustered, wanting to grab her but unable to move because of the pain. Har! Watching him like this was utterly satisfying. Shu Ziji clapped her hands, disgusted by the thought of his lingering presence, and stuck her tongue out at the man, who looked like a cornered beast. "Bye. Let us see if you dare to have designs on me again. HMPH. She grabbed her bag and quickly fled the scene. Shu Ziji ran as fast as she could, fearful that Mo Zhuqian might pursue her or send someone after her. As she dashed away, she glanced back, checking for any pursuers. Fortunately, no one followed. Just as she was about to breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly collided with a solid, broad chest. Ouch! Shu Ziji gasped in pain, instinctively rubbing her forehead where she had bumped into him. Ready to curse the person who dared to block her path, she looked up and found herself staring into a pair of deep, dark eyes that resembled unfathomable cold pools. Chapter 09, He wants to give her a ride. Mo. Older brother. Shu Ziji's heart raced, her eyes widening in surprise. She almost called him by name but quickly changed her mind, recalling their current relationship. Mo Yuchen stood tall in a custom black suit, his features sharp and expressionless, exuding an air of unassailable authority. Shu Ziji forced a shy smile after a moment of awkwardness. How embarrassing. How did she manage to bump into Mo Yuchen like this? Had that sound she heard earlier been his footsteps? How much of her entanglement with her uncle Mo Zhuqian had he seen? Where are you going? Mo Yuchen's deep black eyes held a piercing gaze as he looked down at her, his voice cold and heavy. I'm going to work, Shu Ziji replied, waving her hand in a nervous attempt to escape. Although they had once been engaged, she ended up marrying his brother after a drug incident at a hotel. Now, whenever she encountered Mo Yuchen, her instinct was to flee. After all, she was the one who had cheated and ended their engagement. Why aren't you going to get your car? Mo Yuchen's scrutinizing gaze lingered, a mix of intrigue and doubt. She was clearly heading in the opposite direction of the garage. Shu Ziji stiffened, halting in her tracks. My car is broken. She stammered, quickly fabricating an excuse. The real reason was that she had just scolded Mo Zhuqian by her car, and if she went back to get her vehicle and he was still around, it would be disastrous. I'll give you a ride, Mo Yuchen offered, his voice low and commanding. No need, Shu Ziji instinctively refused, hastily turning to leave. The Mo family was one of the top elite families in S City, wielding immense influence, and their mansion was situated in the most affluent area. This luxurious district housed only the wealthy and powerful, with properties sprawling over acres, all equipped with top-tier amenities. Residents were primarily driven by private vehicles, meaning there were almost no buses or taxis. The few bus stops available were for maids and bodyguards working in the area. Buses arrived on a strict schedule, and if you missed one, you had to wait for hours. Unfortunately for Shu Ziji, by the time she reached the mountaintop bus stop, the bus had just left. The next one wouldn't arrive for at least 2 hours, and she clearly couldn't wait. Reluctantly, she began walking downhill, hoping to flag down a passing taxi. Carrying her bag, she slowly made her way down the sidewalk. By now, the sun was high in the sky, the temperature rising, and the air thick and stifling. After a short while, she was drenched in sweat. As she contemplated finding a shady spot to rest, she suddenly heard a car's enthusiastic voice behind her. Her heart lifted, and she quickly turned around. A sleek black Bentley approached, its glossy exterior glistening in the sunlight, exuding an air of intimidation and arrogance. Shu Ziji's eyes lit up. She recognized the car as a limited edition luxury vehicle worth a fortune. In such a wealthy area, encountering a luxury car wasn't unusual, but she didn't know anyone who drove a Bentley. Doubt crept in, and she hesitated to signal the car. To her surprise, the Bentley came to a stop beside her. 10 following her all the way. Shu Ziji looked into the car window in confusion. The dark car film made it impossible for her to see the people in the car clearly. Turning around, she continued to walk forward alone. She just didn't expect that the car didn't drive away immediately, but seemed to deliberately drive very slowly, following her all the way. Shu Ziji frowned again and looked back, seeing the unfamiliar license plate, and was sure that she didn't know the people in the car. She simply ignored it and walked down the mountain slowly by herself. It would take at least more than an hour for her to walk out of this area and reach the station at the bottom of the mountain. If she rushed to the company again, she would definitely be late. It didn't matter if she was late. Anyway, the company where Shu Ziji was working now was the group of her scumbag father. It didn't matter whether she went there or not. Anyway, she just showed her face every day, and there was no business at all. However, Shu Ziji had just opened a live broadcast room on the internet not long ago. When she was bored every day, she would do live broadcasts to pass the time. It was time for her to start her daily live broadcast. It was time for her to gain popularity, and she couldn't let her fans down. So Shu Ziji quickly took out her phone and opened the live broadcast room. Shu Ziji's pretty face, red and sweaty, appeared on the screen, and the fans who had been waiting for a long time immediately went crazy and asked questions. Jinshir Idao, host, did you just finish exercising? Why is your face full of sweat? Xiaoqian brother, do you exercise on the bed? Yeshui Dawudi, you are sweating. Cherry fishball, fuck, does the host have a boyfriend? Chrysanthemum fragrance, the host is so beautiful and so charming. Dang dang, masked prawn sent 99 flowers. Xiaoqian brother sent more than 66 flowers. There were a lot of questions about whether she had just finished exercising before starting the live broadcast. Shu Ziji glanced at the audience, 1,500, and the number was still rising steadily, and the gifts were constantly refreshing. Shu Ziji turned on the microphone and explained to everyone with a blushing face. You are so evil. I just walked to work today and was sweating profusely. She took out her phone and showed the surrounding scenes to the fans and viewers. The fans expressed their disappointment and sighed for a while. Although there were gifts, they were obviously less than before. Shu Ziji decided to sing a song to comfort everyone. She smiled and hummed a song while doing the live broadcast while walking down the mountain. She was completely immersed in the joy of doing live broadcast and interacting with fans. She didn't notice that the expensive black Bentley car behind her had never driven away, always following her steps and following her all the way. Until Shu Ziji's phone was almost out of power, she said goodbye to the fans and turned off the live broadcast. At this time, the Bentley behind her drove up and stopped in front of Shu Ziji. The window glass of the rear compartment slowly lowered, revealing a familiar and calm handsome face. Shu Ziji was stunned for a moment. How could it be him? Mo Yuechen's face was stern and his aura was majestic. Get in the car. Shu Ziji's eyelids jumped. Could this guy have been following her all the time and watched her live broadcast just now? No need to bother. Her mouth twitched, and she ran away without thinking. Mo Yuchen stared at the slender figure who ran away as soon as he saw him. He took a cigarette slowly and held it in his mouth. His posture was skillful and steady, and the curling green smoke immediately filled his handsome face. Shu Ziji ran desperately, fearing that Mo Yuchen would catch up again, as if he was a flood beast, and she wanted to avoid him as far as possible. I didn't expect that the black Bentley was actually his car. He changed to a new car. No wonder she didn't recognize it and relaxed her defense against him at the first time. After running for a while and getting rid of the man behind her, Shu Ziji wiped the cold sweat on her forehead breathlessly. Just when she was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the black Bentley car came again, braked with a squeak, and stopped in front of her. 11. Take a ride with him. Get in the car. Mo Yuechen's low voice did not allow for any arguments, and his whole body exuded a fierce momentum. Really, no need to bother. Shu Ziji blinked her watery eyes and waved her hands subconsciously. Do you need me to get off the car to invite you? Mo Yuechen's black pupils suddenly stern, his thin lips pursed tightly. He was intimidating without anger, and his cold, hard and deep handsome face was full of secrecy. Shu Ziji looked at the man's calm and handsome face, his cold and strong temperament, his eyes as deep as a 1,000-year-old ice pond reflected her stagnant expression, pursed her red lips, and could only pretend to thank him. Then I'll trouble you, brother. After that, she opened the back door and got in the car. Shu Ziji consciously sat in the seat farthest from Mo Yuchen, with a flattering smile on her face. But she was still uneasy. Would Mo Yuchen be so kind as to give her a ride? Shu Ziji observed his expression and stared at Mo Yuchen for a while. He took out another cigarette with an expressionless face and lit it. He smoked it skillfully, his eyes were deep and distant, and when he exhaled the smoke, he exuded a strong mature manly smell. The blue smoke gradually filled his deep and delicate features, and his cold aura made her feel deeply pressured. The air in the closed compartment was already stuffy, and the smoke from the gas was a bit choking. Shu Ziji coughed a little uncomfortably. Mo Yuchen glanced at her with a dark look in his eyes, and a dark light reflected in his black pupils. He opened the window to let the air circulate. Shu Ziji moistened her throat, smiled, and complimented with great sentimentality, Brother Mo is such a good person. Her naturally beautiful face, coupled with a soft and sweet voice, was enough to give him face. No need to thank me for being so attentive. Mo Yuchen frowned and glanced at her, his expression still indifferent, his voice low, indifferent and distant. It should be, it's really an honor to trouble you. Shu Ziji's mouth curved, her smile was brighter than the flowers in spring, and she did not forget to show that kind of watery and sincere eyes. There was silence in the carriage for a while. Mo Yuechen's face was firm, and he ignored her. After a long time, until Shu Ziji was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Mo Yuechen's low and dark voice slowly sounded, How do you feel about me now? Shu Ziji was shocked, her hands unconsciously clenched into fists, and she didn't come back to her senses for a long time. What did he mean by asking this? Although they were engaged before, she ended up marrying his brother, so they should have no relationship. Why are you so nervous? I just asked casually. Mo Yuchen looked at her like a frightened bird, his face still indifferent, but his deep eyes were a little cold, which made people feel chilly. I don't feel anything anymore. Shu Ziji's back was stiff, and she answered subconsciously. Mo Yuechen's dark and deep eyes sank, and a sense of unhappiness spread from the bottom of his heart, making his hard and three-dimensional facial features instantly covered with a layer of cold frost. He threw away the cigarette butt in his hand, glanced at her with a gloomy look, and raised a mocking arc full of contempt and disdain for her answer. It's right that you don't feel anything. Now we are not the same relationship as before. I don't want you to be trembling and evasive every time you see me. People who don't know will think that I have done something shameful to you. You'd better be more careful in the future, especially in the Mo family, so as not to be misunderstood. Shu Ziji was stunned, and her tense nerves finally relaxed a little after hearing his words. So that's what you think? Shu Ziji patted her chest and leaned back easily. I thought you were still brooding over the past. God knows how badly she performed when facing him before, and how guilty she was. Obviously, she was drugged, but every time she faced him, she couldn't control her nervousness. 12. I will definitely keep my distance from him in the future. It was as if she had betrayed him. Shu Ziji took a few deep breaths, and a rare seriousness appeared on her face. Don't worry, Mo Yuchen, I still know this measure. I will keep my distance from you in the future. As soon as she finished speaking, Mo Yuechen's handsome and three-dimensional features became even colder, and a dark light flashed in his dark and deep eyes, as if a group of black air was hovering over his head. His powerful aura made the atmosphere in the car strangely bleak, and even the temperature around him seemed to have fallen into an ice cellar. But Shu Ziji didn't notice his abnormality. She casually found the makeup mirror in her bag and began to touch up her makeup. She didn't even pay attention to the man next to her. The driver in front couldn't help but hissed and sucked in a breath of cold air. He saw that Mr. Mo's face was slowly getting darker and darker. Anyone who can make Mo Yuechen's face darker and darker will definitely not have a good result. The driver secretly worried about Shu Ziji and was ready to throw the woman out of the car as soon as Mr. Mo opened his mouth. But the Bentley drove all the way to the city, and Mo Yuchen didn't say a word. He pursed his lips tightly and sat motionlessly in the back seat. His face was dark, as if a haze was pouring out of him. The driver was silently embarrassed. Isn't this the boss's previous style? Why is it different when he meets Miss Shu? Shu Ziji put on her beautiful makeup and fiddled with a new hairstyle she created. Then she closed the makeup mirror with satisfaction and put it back in her bag. Looking out the window, they were about to arrive at Shu Group, and she couldn't help but feel happy. Please let me off in front. Don't waste Mr. Mo's precious time. Shu Ziji still had a smile on her face, and her tone was brisk, but with a hint of irony. If Mo Yuchen had been sent to the company gate, people who didn't know the situation would think of her getting out of his car. After all, they were engaged before, and now her husband was away on a business trip. Mo Yuchen was right. They should keep their distance to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. Mo Yuechen's eyes, as deep as a pool, narrowed slightly, and he ordered the driver to stop the car in a low voice, but his face was not fluctuating at all. The Bentley pulled over, Shu Ziji opened the door and got out. Just after taking 2 steps, she suddenly remembered something. She turned back and was ready to say thank you to Mo Yuchen. After all, he was kind to give her a ride today. Who knew that as soon as she opened her mouth, the Bentley suddenly sped away from her, and it was superfluous to say a word to her. Shu Ziji's mouth twitched, and she puffed up her cheeks, staring angrily at the direction where Mo Yuechen's Bentley left. What? This man is too arrogant, too cold, and too arrogant. Except for his family background and appearance, there is really nothing to recommend him. Fortunately, I didn't marry him. Shu Ziji once again confirmed that it was a wise move for her to choose Mo Zishuan instead of Mo Yuchen. In the back seat of the Bentley, Mo Yuechen's angular face was still dark and terrible, full of unruly hostility, and his thin lips were tightly pursed into a straight line. He was even more unhappy, as if covered by a haze, gloomy. The driver glanced at him from the rearview mirror from time to time, and shuddered involuntarily. At the same time, he was puzzled. Since the boss was not in a good mood when he saw Miss Shu, why did he have to follow her all the way until she got in the car and ordered him to take her to the company? He remembered that the boss had an international meeting to attend this morning. Mr. Mo asked so many people from both companies to wait for him just to send Miss Shu to work. But it seems that Miss Shu doesn't appreciate it. Boss Mo's thoughts are really complicated and unpredictable. 13. The mistress and her son fight for the right of inheritance. When Shu Ziji was carrying her bag and wandering to the company, it was already past their working hours. She wandered all the way, took the elevator upstairs, and when she passed the meeting room, she ran into her half-brother, Shu Shaoxi. Hey, Shaoxi, you've taken over the company so quickly. Shu Ziji still had a smile on her face, but that smile was as sarcastic as it could be. Ziji, how can you talk to your brother? He is your father, and he was specially asked to come to the company to help. Uncle Zhang, the chairman's assistant next to him, quickly tried to smooth things over. My dad is getting more and more confused as he gets older. Shu Ziji sighed, looking at Shu Shaoxi with contempt. Let him come to the company to help. What can he do? He hasn't even grown out yet. Sister, I am also my father's son. It is my duty to come to the company. Sooner or later, Shu's will be inherited by my son. Shu Shaoxi put his hands in his pockets, looking careless, and said proudly. Yes, you are my father's son, but just an illegitimate child. Shu Ziji smiled coldly, showing no mercy in public. You and your mistress, you still want to grab the company. Aren't you afraid of embarrassment? Sister, you. Shu Shaoxi blushed angrily and wanted to say something. Shu Ziji interrupted him sharply. What sister? Who is your sister? This is a company. Don't try to make connections in the company. If you don't know, you will think that we at Shu's employ people based on nepotism. After saying that, he took his bag and walked away without even looking at them. Shu Group was originally founded by her mother and her father when her mother was still alive. At first, Shu Group started with jewelry because her mother was very talented in jewelry design. However, as Shu Group grew bigger and the family became richer, her father had an affair. The father brought his pregnant mistress into the family and forced her mother to divorce. Her mother took the young Shu Ziji abroad. Soon after arriving abroad, her mother became depressed and died soon. And Shu Group Jewelry also became depressed because it lacked a talented designer like her mother. A few years ago, Shu Group's largest partner had more and more opinions on the jewelry designed by Shu Group, but was very fond of the work of a student. Shu Group failed in an investment in a project that year, so it naturally could not lose such an important partner. And the work that the cooperative company took a fancy to was Shu Ziji's award-winning work in the World Jewelry Design Creativity Competition. Afterwards, Mr. Shu naturally contacted the daughter of his first wife who had been abandoned long ago, and in exchange for the company's shares and heirs, in exchange for Shu Ziji's lifelong design works to be used by Shu's company, and he also took her back home openly to continue to be the eldest daughter of Shu's company. Shu Ziji had just returned to her office when Mr. Shu called her as expected. She smiled coldly. Shu Sheshi's complaint was really quick. "Hello, Dad." Shu Ziji took a deep breath and answered the phone. "You still have the nerve to call me Dad. Let me ask you, why did you teach Xiaoxi a lesson in front of so many people in the company today?" Mr. Shu asked in a cold voice. "Dad, I want to ask you something else. When you tricked me back to China, didn't you tell me that the company would be left to me to inherit, and never to the mother and son? How can you go back on your word?" Shu Ziji turned the tables and asked back. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a while, and then Mr. Shu said, "You are just too cunning. Didn't I ask your brother to come to the company to help you? I'm not trying to steal the company from you, so don't think too much. What can he do for me? He hasn't even graduated from college yet, and you're so anxious to arrange him to the company. Isn't this causing trouble for me?" Shu Ziji didn't believe her father's lies and asked sarcastically. "Ziji, after all, Xiaoxi is your brother, and as a sister, can't you teach him more?" Mr. Shu played the emotional card with her in a fatherly tone. "Shu Ziji didn't buy his tricks. He is not my brother. I have never had a brother. He is just the son you had with a woman outside. You." Mr. Shu was so angry that his face turned pale. "Okay, I won't argue with you. Anyway, Xiaoxi will help in the company in the future, and you can come back with him to eat in the evening. 14 Take her back home with a rich man." Shu Ziji put down the phone, a sneer appearing on the corner of her mouth. This is not the first time that her bastard father has favored his mistress's son over his daughter. At the beginning, Shu Yaoqing was reluctant to let his beloved son Shu Xiaoxi suffer outside, so he cruelly drove her and her mother out of the Shu family, and brought Shu Xiaoxi and his mistress into the Shu family. She and her mother were displaced abroad, but he, as a father, didn't care about them and only had this son who could carry on the family line in his heart. Shu Ziji still remembers that she had worked so hard and finally won a prize in the World Jewelry Design Competition, which attracted the attention of Shu Yaoqing. In order to stabilize the company's business partners, Shu Yaoqing had to go to France in person to bring her home. But when he saw the dilapidated house where she and her mother lived in France, what rose in her eyes as a father was not guilt or heartache, but disgust. "Yes, I despise her. I despise the fact that her place is so shabby and poor, and it doesn't match the status of a daughter of the Shu family at all." But did he know what kind of life he and his mother were living in France after he drove them out of the Shu family? Her mother was depressed and died very early. She, a girl, had to make a living in this strange country, without anyone to rely on. She had to work part-time to support her studies, pay their high design tuition fees, and constantly improve her design skills. Her life was extremely hard. Sometimes she even had to live on only a few pieces of bread for weeks at a time. The hard life abroad made her feel very tough. With no one to help her, she could only rely on herself. "Jer, are you used to living abroad these years?" Shu Yaoqing asked casually while sitting on a shabby chair that he had carefully wiped off the dust. "Not bad." Shu Ziji replied calmly, her expression blending into the light and shadow, and it was hard to tell what kind of emotion she was showing. "Yeah." Shu Yaoqing frowned and looked at the dilapidated house, which was dark and damp, and could not be lived in at all. He then looked at his daughter in front of him, who was obviously thin and looked not very good, probably due to malnutrition. I didn't expect that you would win a prize in the jewelry design competition this time. Dad is really happy for you. It means that my efforts in sending you abroad to hone your skills have paid off. Shu Yaoqing coughed lightly and said against his will. Shu Ziji didn't say anything, but a hint of deep sarcasm flashed across her eyes. She and her mother were driven out of the country like stray dogs, just to train her. With such a good opportunity for training, why didn't he send his beloved son Shu Ziji out to train together? She is old but still comes up with such a ridiculous excuse. Does he really think she is the naive and stupid girl she was back then? Since you have performed well, your talent cannot be wasted. Come back with me and help out in the company. Your mother left 5% of the shares after her death, and you will inherit it. Shu Yaoqing offered generous conditions in order to get the design works in his daughter's hands. If you let me join the company, won't my aunt and the others object? Shu Ziji asked with a sneer. You don't have to think so much, just do as I say. Shu Yaoqing made the final decision and left without giving her a chance to speak. Afterwards, everything developed as Shu Ziji had expected. In order to steal the design manuscript from her, Shu Yaoqing brought her back to the country as the daughter of the Shu family, arranged for her to join the company, and let her inherit the 5% shares left by her mother. Shu Ziji brought her mother's urn back to China. Before returning, she swore that she would take back everything that belonged to her. Her performance after returning to China did not disappoint Shu Yaoqing. Her jewelry designs sold very well, and Shu's profits increased year by year in those years. The directors all praised Shu Ziji for her talent and suggested that she inherit Shu's. Shu Ziji also agreed to the marriage with the Mo family and entered the company's decision-making management. At this time, the mistress and her son could no longer sit still. So there was the scandal that Shu Ziji was drugged, spent a night with Mo family's second young master Mo Zishuan in a hotel, and seduced her fiancé's younger brother. 15. There is another purpose for asking her to go home. In the evening, when Shu Ziji got off work and returned to the Shu family villa. In the huge villa, her scumbag father and his mistress and her son were having a great time, talking and laughing as a family of three. When they saw Shu Ziji enter the room, the three people's laughter stopped abruptly. Looking at her eyes, it seemed that her appearance had disrupted all the joy. Ziji, are you back? The kitchen has made ginseng soup for you. You haven't been back for a long time, so you should take some rest. Yi Fuli's tone was gentle, and she pretended to be virtuous and concerned, as if the deliberate rejection just now was just Shu Ziji's illusion. No need, you guys continue. Shu Ziji said coldly. She ignored the scheming bitch and walked straight to the sofa beside her and sat down. But Yi Fuli did not give up. She was best at playing the role of a gentle and virtuous woman. How could she not take this opportunity to show it off? She personally brought a bowl of ginseng soup from the kitchen and came to Shu Ziji. I spent several hours in the afternoon cooking this soup, specially waiting for you to come back and drink it. I didn't even let Xier have a sip. Come and try it. Yi Fuli said attentively. Her soft words made Shu Yaoqing look at her with praise. Really? I don't want to drink. Shu Ziji didn't give him face. She picked up the banana on the coffee table and began to peel it slowly. What's your attitude? Shu Yaoqing's face turned cold, and he frowned and scolded. Your mother knew you were coming back for dinner, so she specially asked the kitchen to stew it for you. My mother? Shu Ziji's eyes also turned cold. She turned her head to look at Shu Yaoqing, and of course she did not miss the contempt from Shu Ziji beside him. Are you senile or forgetful? My mother has been dead for many years. Shu Ziji looked straight into Shu Yaoqing's eyes, took a bite of the banana in her hand, and asked with a sneer. Shu Yaoqing was choked by these words, and the breath was stuck in his chest for a long time without him being able to relax. Yilafu gave Shu Ziji a look and he immediately understood. He quickly sat down next to Shu Yaoqing and patted his back like a well-behaved, sensible and filial son. If you don't like this soup, Jia, forget it. I'll let Elevener drink it. Don't get angry with your dad because of me. Yilafu immediately advised, pretending to be kind and helpless, and it was Shu Ziji who was ignorant. You have no manners at all. I don't know how your mother taught you. Shu Yaoqing was really angry this time, and his face became completely gloomy. My mother was forced to death by you and your vixen a long time ago. No one taught me. I have no manners. Isn't it all because of you? Shu Ziji glared back fiercely and retorted. Shu Yaoqing stood up suddenly and raised his hand angrily. You! What's wrong with me? Shu Ziji raised her eyelids, her face full of disdain. What I said is all true. The butcher gave you a son, and you kicked us mother and daughter out of the house. I have been wandering abroad alone for so many years. As a father, have you ever cared about me? After all, she is his daughter, and she is no less imposing than him. Jer, I know you're not feeling well, but your father has been worried about you all these years. Yilefu was trying to smooth things over again. He cares about me. A suggestive sneer appeared on Shu Ziji's lips. If he really cared about her, would he have kicked her out of the country and ignored her for so many years? Yeah, you see, as soon as your dad saw your husband's scandal in the newspaper today, he immediately asked you to go home to inquire about the situation. Isn't it because he cares about you? Yilefu continued to say nice things, but in fact she was asking questions with bad intentions. So this is why you asked me to go home today. Shu Ziji's smile deepened, and the anger in her heart was rising to her forehead. I mean, how can you have the leisure time to invite me home for dinner? Aren't you afraid that I'll be an eyesore? What nonsense are you talking about? I ask you, what's the matter with the scandal between Zishuan and that woman? Shu Yaoqing asked with a gloomy face. 16 The mistress and her son schemed. Let it be as it is. Shu Ziji snorted coldly without explaining. He is your husband, don't you know what's going on? Shu Yaoqing raised his voice and frowned even deeper. Shu Ziji sneered sarcastically. When did you become so concerned about my marriage? Are you worried that your rich son-in-law will be abducted by another woman? You? Shu Yaoqing's face turned pale as his daughter hit the nail on the head. Ziji, how can you talk to your father like that? Your father is just concerned about you. Yilefu pretended to be worried. What if Zi Shen really gets together with another woman outside? What should we do? Yes, sister, our family is worried about you too. Shu Shaoxi also spoke at the right time, making it seem as if they were really a family with her. Shu Ziji sneered indifferently, knowing very well what they were thinking. Yilefu and Shu Shaoxi have been coveting the Shu family's company and property for a long time. They have also fooled her scumbag father into a trance for so many years. Originally, they could have taken over the Shu group without any scruples and would not have to give her a single cent of the property. However, Shu Ziji married into their wealthy Mo family, and now she is the second young lady of the Mo family. This mistress and her son want to covet the company and the family property. If they kick her out again, they have to consider the Mo family's reputation, right? So, now they wish her husband Mo Zishuan was having an affair with other women outside, and it would be best if she divorced Mo Zishuan and lost the protection of the Mo family, so that they could attack her without any scruples. Thank you for your concern. My husband and I are doing fine. Shu Ziji immediately put on a smile and glanced at Yilefu coldly. I won't let those questionable women outside take advantage of me. Yilefu naturally knew that Shu Ziji's words were meant to mock her, and she bore a grudge in her heart, but on the surface she pretended to care about her. As long as you are okay, your father and I will be relieved. Don't worry about me. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first, so as not to be an eyesore and disturb your families gathering together. Shu Ziji raised her eyebrows, glanced at the three people meaningfully, and left on her own with her bag. After leaving the Shu family, Shu Ziji felt refreshed and her whole body felt much more relaxed. She hadn't had dinner yet and was feeling very hungry. Just as he was planning to find a place to have dinner, he was stopped by a large group of reporters before he left the villa area where the Shu family lived. Ms. Shu, what do you think about Mr. Mo's recent scandal? Ms. Shu, can you tolerate your husband cheating on you? Ms. Shu, will you get divorced? Reporters threw out questions one after another, holding cameras high in their hands and flashing their cameras continuously. Shu Ziji's eyes narrowed. She had just left the Shu family when these reporters swarmed over. It was obvious that they had received the news and knew that she would come to the Shu family tonight, so they deliberately blocked her here. Who betrayed her whereabouts to these reporters, and who so coincidentally knew that she would come to the Shu family tonight? Who else could it be other than the mistress and her son? Shu Ziji was secretly annoyed and subconsciously clenched her fists. I didn't expect that despite all my precautions, I was still tricked by that mother and son. I didn't expect you guys to be so concerned about my family affairs. Let my husband answer your questions in person, okay? Husband. Shu Ziji looked calm, waved behind the reporters, and smiled brightly, as if she had really seen Mo Zishuan. The reporters thought that Mr. Mo had returned and was going back to his parents' home with his wife tonight. This was big news, and they all looked back in surprise, but when they looked, where was Mr. Mo? The reporters searched for a long time but didn't see anyone. Then they realized they had been deceived. When they turned around, they found that Shu Ziji had escaped. "Stop, don't run." The reporters chased after him. The night wind blew in my ears, and I heard shouts and footsteps behind me. Shu Ziji couldn't help but quicken her pace. But she was wearing high heels after all, so it was a bit difficult for her to run, and she could see that the reporters were about to catch up with her. At this time, a flashy red Lamborghini sports car stopped in front of her. The car door opened, revealing Mo Zhuqian's familiar evil and handsome face. "Get in the car. 17, let's take her to play something exciting tonight." Shu Ziji's heart tightened. She didn't expect Mo Zhuqian to suddenly appear here. Thinking about how I just beat him up this morning, if I meet him again at this time, will he take the opportunity to retaliate against me? Shu Ziji was a little hesitant, but the reporters behind her were about to catch up. "Stop, Miss Shu, don't run." Shu Ziji's face trembled slightly. Seeing the reporters getting closer and closer, the situation was already imminent. "Never mind, the most important thing is to escape first." Shu Ziji made up her mind, bent down and sat in the sports car. "Uncle, please drive faster." She sat in the passenger seat and urged sincerely. "What's the hurry? When the reporters catch up, wouldn't it be better to take a picture of you and me together?" Mo Zhuqian looked at her leisurely, his posture casual and lazy, his hands nonchalantly resting on the steering wheel, his expression free and easy. "Are you crazy?" Shu Ziji screamed in disbelief, furious. "I don't care. I'm on the entertainment headlines every day anyway. It's just that you will be the heroine tomorrow." Mo Zhuqian raised his thin lips and spoke in a nonchalant tone. His charming face was filled with an evil aura. "You?" Shu Ziji gritted her teeth in hatred, secretly annoyed with herself. How could she be so careless as to get into a stolen car? Why is this man so insidious and cunning? Seeing that the reporters were about to catch up with the sports car, if they took pictures of her getting into the sports car of the Mo family's uncle so late at night, it would be even more difficult to explain. "As long as you drive, I will agree to any conditions you want." Shu Ziji's face turned red with anxiety, and she said boldly. "Remember, this is what you said." A meaningful light flashed across Mo Zhuqian's black eyes. The corners of his mouth curved, and then he started the car. The top performance supercar sped away like an arrow. Shu Ziji looked at the group of reporters who were chasing her relentlessly, and finally breathed a sigh of relief when the sports car left them far behind. She held her chest and calmed herself for a long time, telling herself that she was finally out of danger. Mo Zhuqian, who was driving, caught a glimpse of her unusually rich expression and raised his eyebrows slightly. "I thought we were filming a police and gangster movie." Mo Zhuqian's narrow peach blossom eyes fell on her, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he spoke playfully. Shu Ziji looked behind her and confirmed that no one was following her, so she said to Mo Zhuqian, "Uncle, thank you so much for tonight. Please drop me off at the intersection ahead. After using me, you turn against me so quickly. Don't forget what you said just now." Mo Zhuqian subconsciously tightened his hands around the steering wheel, curled his lips and gave a cold reminder, with an oppressive aura between the lines. Shu Ziji's eyelids twitched. "What did I say?" Mo Zhuqian glanced at her with deep eyes. "You said, as long as I drive, you will agree to any conditions." "I." Shu Ziji felt a chill on her spine and her heart tightened instantly. "I just blurted out what I said in a hurry. It was just a temporary measure. Did I say that? Why don't I remember it?" Shu Ziji moved her butt, pretending to have amnesia, and acted stupid with him. "You still don't want to admit it?" Mo Zhuqian narrowed his eyes, and the light in his eyes suddenly dimmed. Shu Ziji decided to play dumb to the end, and raised her chin. "I never said that, why should I admit it?" "Okay, since you lost your memory so quickly, I will help you recall it." Mo Zhuqian narrowed his charming peach blossom eyes and vented his anger in his low voice. The temperature inside the car dropped several degrees Celsius in an instant. Shu Ziji suddenly had a bad feeling in her heart. She moved her mouth and was about to ask, "What are you going to do, R?" Before he could finish his words, Mo Zhuqian turned his hands on the steering wheel suddenly to the right, and the whole sports car seemed to drift and made a 180-degree turn. Sizzle. The tires of the sports car made a sharp sound as they scraped across the ground. Shu Ziji lost her balance and her head hit the car window hard. Oh! She frowned in pain, holding her head in pain. As soon as she sat firmly, she saw the situation in front of her and her eyes widened. Mojwichin, you are going against the flow. Shu Ziji screamed in disbelief. Shut up. I'll show you something exciting tonight. Let's see if you dare to fool me again in the future. There were undercurrents in Mojwichin's black eyes, and he shouted in a deep voice. His perfect face, like that of a god, was full of arrogance and wildness. Shu Ziji's heart sank suddenly and she subconsciously opened her eyes wide. I have heard for a long time that Mojwichin, the younger uncle of the Mo family, is unruly and does not play by the rules. He is not someone who is easy to mess with. She accidentally annoyed him today, and the consequences can be imagined. I don't want it, I want to get off. Shu Ziji shouted anxiously. It's too late. Mojwichin's black pupils suddenly shrank, and a dangerous chill emanated from his body. He curled his lips. He stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and the sports car rushed forward with a whoosh. 18. Admit your mistakes. R. Shu Ziji was horrified. Are you crazy? You are driving against the flow, why are you driving so fast? What, are you afraid of death? Mojwichin raised his thin lips slightly, his eyes fixed with dark light fluctuations. It's too dangerous for you to do this, stop the car, stop. Shu Ziji stared at him closely, her heart in her throat. It was so late at night, the light was dim, and there were many cars on the road, but he was driving in the wrong direction. Did he want to cause a car accident and kill people? Hold on tight. Mojwichin squinted his eyes, gripped the steering wheel tightly, pursed his sexy lips, and stared at the road ahead without blinking. He drove at a very high speed, and he was driving in the opposite direction, which was simply thrilling. Mojwichin, you don't want to live anymore, do you? There's a car on the left, be careful. Right, there's another one coming from the right. Middle, drive to the middle quickly, there are car lights shining over there. The sunroof on the top of the sports car was fully open, and the whistling evening breeze blew into my mouth, blowing on my face and feeling painful like a knife. Shu Ziji no longer cared about anything at this time. She held the handle on the top of the sports car tightly, stared at the road conditions ahead nervously, and screamed continuously. What she didn't know was that Mojwichin was not only the rich second generation of the Mo family, but also a romantic and suave man. He also had a mysterious identity. He was a world-class racing driver. Every year he would participate in various world-class racing competitions, and he had won various honors and awards related to traffic jams. He even broke the Guinness World Record by drifting continuously on mountain roads for 17 hours. This kind of reverse drifting is unimaginably difficult for ordinary people, but it is just a small case for Mojwichin. He just used it to scare Shu Ziji. Stop the car. No, oh. Help. Shu Ziji's heart tightened and she was more frightened than ever before. Her nerves were so stimulated that she couldn't help but scream. But Mojwichin ignored her and continued to do his own thing, turning the steering wheel skillfully with both hands, and the extended sports car drifted left and right on the road. Shu Ziji was most afraid of this kind of driving drift, challenging the extreme heartbeat. That feeling was simply worse than death. And now she is experiencing this feeling that is worse than death. Shu Ziji's body swayed as the sports car turned left and right, and she almost vomited several times. She finally couldn't hold on any longer, her voice trembling, with a hint of tears in her voice. Uncle, I was wrong. Aren't you an elder? Can you forgive me for being ignorant this time? What's wrong? Mojwichin sneered, his eyes dark and his handsome face expressionless. I shouldn't go back on my word. I have remembered all the conditions I promised you just now. Shu Ziji's fan-shaped eyelashes trembled slightly. She bit her lip, not daring to hide anything anymore. What else? Mojwichin glanced at her with his deep peach blossom eyes, without being moved, and his voice was low and slow. Anything else? Shu Ziji's heart skipped a beat, and doubt flashed in her eyes. Mojwichin snorted coldly, his deep eyes tinged with a bit of anger, and reminded her gloomily, what did you do this morning? Don't you remember? Shu Ziji was stunned for a moment, then understood instantly. He was talking about how she kicked him in the vitals and beat him up this morning. Uncle, it was obviously you who teased me first this morning. Before Shu Ziji could utter the last two words, a large truck appeared in front of her. Turn quickly, quickly, there is a truck over there, turn quickly. Shu Ziji screamed in desperation. Mo Xueqin glanced at her panic without leaving any trace, and said lightly with a curled lip, his handsome and evil face showing a calm expression, anything else? Uncle, I was wrong, it was all my fault. I shouldn't have hit you. Please turn quickly, okay? Hurry up, otherwise we will hit the truck and we will all die. Shu Ziji urged anxiously and had to compromise with him. Shu Ziji, remember, I didn't let you die today. From now on, your life belongs to me. As soon as Mo Xueqin's magnetic voice fell, there was a whoosh, and the sports car accelerated to the extreme, rushing towards the truck in front like a rocket. Ath! Shu Ziji's screams continued. Her heart was in suspense. Fear surged up like a tide. She trembled and cried, no, don't. Their sports car was about to collide head-on with the truck. The truck driver then noticed the sports car in front of him. He didn't see it clearly because it was speeding so fast. Now it was too late to step on the brakes. 19 You really don't remember him? Mo Xueqin, are you really going to die? Stop it. Shu Ziji could hardly believe her eyes. This madman Mo Xueqin was actually about to collide head-on with a large truck. Her whole body was trembling and her heart was in unprecedented despair. At the critical moment when the sports car was about to collide with the truck, Mo Xueqin suddenly stepped on the accelerator a few times and accurately grasped the steering wheel. The sports car rushed straight forward like a rocket without fear, flew into the air, and jumped over the truck. Shu Ziji opened her mouth so wide that she felt like her breathing was about to stop. At that moment, all she could think of was screaming and endless fear. Even the truck driver was stunned and froze in place. This is not drag racing at all, it's clearly driving in the clouds. The evening breeze whistled into the car, and Shu Ziji's tied hair fell down, like a silent temptation. Clang! The sports car landed and drove smoothly onto the road. With just a few seconds of flying in the air, Mo Xueqin easily turned the dangerous situation around. Shu Ziji was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when she was shocked to find that the sports car was still speeding in the opposite direction and ahead. Stop now, quickly. After Shu Ziji came to her senses, she waved her hands desperately and rushed over to beat him. Mo Xueqin ignored her crying and shouting, and his slender right leg always kept pressing the accelerator. After speeding all the way down, Mo Xueqin turned the steering wheel to the right and stepped on the ground, and the Bugatti Veyron stopped perfectly at the door of the Mo family mansion. Shu Ziji was gasping for breath, her whole body limp and powerless as if she had been overdrawn, as if she had experienced a life and death catastrophe. What's wrong? Are you scared? Mo Xueqin side-glanced at the sweat on her forehead, her red face blown by the wind, her body still trembling. He raised his eyebrows slightly, curled his lips and smiled evilly. You, cough cough. Shu Ziji patted her chest and was about to speak, but found that her voice was hoarse. How do you feel? Mo Xueqin reached out to push away the wet hair on her neck, leaned close to her, and a playful smile flashed in his charming peach blossom eyes. He raised his thin lips wickedly and asked in a gangster tone. Shu Ziji was startled by his touch and instinctively wanted to dodge, but when she turned sideways, she found her stomach churning violently. She quickly covered her mouth. Are you going to vomit? Mo Xueqian's expression suddenly changed and his eyes flickered slightly. If you don't let me get off the car, I'll vomit in your car. Shu Ziji endured the discomfort and squeezed out the threatening words from her throat. Mo Xueqin immediately unlocked the car and looked at Shu Ziji's back as she hurriedly got out of the car. An unknown dark light rose and fell in his deep eyes. You really don't remember me? He muttered to himself in a low voice, his eyes sparkling with a strange feeling. Shu Ziji covered her lips and stumbled up the stairs. She didn't care if she bumped into someone on the way, she just wanted to rush back to her and her husband's room. She pushed open the door, ran straight to the bathroom, squatted beside the toilet, and started vomiting violently. Ouch, she had never experienced such a thrilling car race. She almost thought she was going to die. My stomach was already turbulent from the shaking of the sports car. It's just that I was nervous and depressed in the car just now, and now as soon as I got off the car, I immediately vomited in pain. Shu Ziji didn't know how long she had been vomiting. She felt dizzy and kept vomiting into the toilet. She didn't collapse until there was nothing left in her stomach to vomit. After a long while, she got up to rinse her mouth. Shu Ziji poured herself a large glass of warm water, and after drinking it in one gulp, she finally felt better. She had originally planned to call her husband Moses Schwan in the evening to ask about the scandal, but after what happened, she was not in a good mood and it was not appropriate to call her husband at this time to avoid worrying him. Shu Ziji took some clothes to change and went to the bathroom to take a shower. After coming out, she went straight to bed. When she was drifting off to sleep, she suddenly felt the side of the bed sink, and then she was embraced by a big embrace. 20 The man from that night came again. Shu Ziji frowned slightly and thought she was dreaming at first. But she felt more and more that something was wrong. The man's warm breath, mixed with the faint smell of tobacco, sprayed on her fair skin, filling her senses. Shu Ziji only felt that her delicate body was surrounded by a strong masculine scent. Shu Ziji's breath was choked and she woke up from her sleep in shock, her mind completely distracted. She froze, unable to believe that the man from that night was here again. Who are you? Let me go. Shu Ziji looked embarrassed and could not help but growl angrily. The man did not answer. Instead, he wrapped his arms around her slender waist from behind, held her tightly in his arms, and lowered his head to kiss her neck. His bold and frivolous behavior made Shu Ziji's body tense. She bit her lip, a little angry. Who are you? If you don't let me go, I'm going to call for help. The man still did not respond. He continued to kiss her neck and back as if she was hearing nothing. His long, strong hands began to wander over her body. Shu Ziji's face turned red and she gritted her teeth secretly, knowing that this man didn't care about her threats at all. Instead, she herself didn't dare to call for help. If she called the servants and found a man in her bed, she would have trouble explaining herself. The Mo family would even accuse her of having an affair. How would she explain it then? You can't do this. Shu Ziji's lips trembled, and her ears began to turn red due to excitement. Her voice was tender and soft, not like a protest, but more like a silent temptation and invitation. The man's kiss began to become hot and crazy, and his hands' movements became more and more wanton. Shu Ziji's face suddenly flushed. She slapped away the rebellious hand and turned over to fight him. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, her red lips were suddenly blocked. Shu Ziji's eyes couldn't help but widen. Staring at the enlarged handsome face of the man so close to her, she wanted to see clearly who he was. But the light in the bedroom was too dark. Shu Ziji turned off all the lights before going to bed. The moonlight was dim tonight, and the room was pitch black. She couldn't see the man's eyebrows at all. When Shu Ziji was wondering, the entanglement between the man's lips and teeth in the next moment wiped out all her consciousness. The man's big hand tightly held her thin waist, and kissed her madly and lingeringly. When Shu Ziji was almost out of breath, he was satisfied and let go of her lips. Shu Ziji was just about to take a breath when the sound of clothes falling off startled her awake the next second. No, no. She pleaded awkwardly, I feel uncomfortable today. I just vomited. Shu Ziji didn't know whether her begging for mercy would be useful, but she really didn't want to betray her husband again and be raped by a strange man in the middle of the night. And today she was indeed not feeling well. She had just vomited everything in her stomach and her body felt soft and weak. If this man tried to force her at this time, she would definitely not be able to resist. There was a suffocating silence in the air for a while. Shu Ziji was very close to the man's body and could clearly feel his hot body temperature. She had prepared for the worst. After a while, the man's strong arms hooked her slender waist and pulled her into his arms, pressing her against his broad chest. Shu Ziji was forced to lie on the man's body in an awkward posture, her heart was in turmoil and she couldn't calm down. I can't sleep if you're like this, she reminded him awkwardly. The man did not speak, and always maintained the intimate posture of hugging her. The temperature in the silent space continued to rise, and her nostrils were filled with the man's crisp breath mixed with a faint smell of tobacco, which made Shu Ziji blush and her heart beat faster. She reached out and pushed, wanting to get out of the man's arms, but no matter how hard she tried, the man would not let go. Later, the man's breathing became heavy again, and his body temperature continued to rise. If you move again, I won't be able to control myself, he warned in a low, hoarse voice. Shu Ziji's body froze. Hearing the man's explicit words, she was so frightened that she dared not move anymore, for fear that she would get into trouble. The man exhaled deeply, as if trying to calm his desire. Shu Ziji was a little surprised. Was he really going to let her go? But why? Just because he wasn't feeling well, he didn't want it tonight? Shu Ziji just felt confused and puzzled, her heart was lost and hesitant, and her mind was in a mess. I don't know how much time had passed, but probably because she was frightened today and was too tired, she fell asleep without realizing it. When I woke up the next day, the man from last night was gone again. Shu Ziji almost thought she was dreaming. But the lingering masculine scent in the air clearly reminded her that the man had come again last night. And she actually fell asleep in the arms of this unknown man without any defense. Shu Ziji was tangled and embarrassed, and her heart was filled with confusion. What's going on with me? Could it be that her husband was away on business for too long and she felt too empty and lonely, so she allowed a man to take advantage of her? But who is that man? She racked her brains, thinking over and over again, but still to no avail. There was a knock from the servant at the door. "Second young madam, breakfast is ready. I'm not feeling well today. Please bring breakfast up." Shu Ziji really didn't want to go downstairs. When she was having breakfast with the Mo family yesterday, she was not only teased but also ridiculed. She was too tired to deal with it, so she said to the servant, "Yes, second young madam." The servant responded and went down. Shu Ziji went into the bathroom to wash up, then went to the dressing room to pick out clothes to wear for work today. By the time she had finished getting ready, the servant had already prepared her breakfast and served it to her. Shu Ziji's stomach was empty after vomiting last night, so she was hungry now. She ate alone at the dining table in the room and finished her breakfast quickly. She looked at the time and saw that it was getting late, so she opened the door and went out to work. As soon as I went downstairs, I ran into my sister-in-law Liang Ziru, who was considerately and virtuously helping Mo Yuchen tie his tie. The two of them looked very affectionate, and the scene was harmonious and warm. 21 My husband's phone call was answered by a woman. Shu Ziji couldn't describe the feeling in her heart. She walked straight to the door without saying hello. When she passed by them, she clearly heard Liang Ziru's coquettish voice. "Chen, can you stay with me today? I have to join the crew to shoot a new movie in a few days, so I'm afraid I won't have time to be with you." "Yeah." Mo Yuechen's expression was indifferent, and his low voice was indifferent and calm. "Hubby, you're so nice." Liang Ziru looked happy. She climbed onto Mo Yuechen's neck with both hands, stood on tiptoes, and gave him a big sweet kiss. Shu Ziji walked out of the door without looking around, and did not see the meaningful look Mo Yuchen cast at her. She went to the Mo family's garage, took her car, and drove straight to Shu's. While waiting for the red light on the road, Shu Ziji called her husband Mo Zishuan. No one answered. When she arrived at the company and called again, Mo Zishuan's phone was turned off. Shu Ziji was a little surprised. She had never encountered such a situation when she called Mo Zishuan. Is it because of the time difference? It is night abroad and Zishuan is resting. Knock knock. The knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Shu Ziji raised her head. Secretary Xiao Zhang came over with a stack of documents and said, "Ms. Shu, this document needs your signature." "Yes." Shu Ziji took the document and signed her name. "What's going on with Shu Shaoxi recently?" She handed the document back to him and asked, suddenly remembering something. "Your father, Mr. Shu, is planning to bid for a piece of government land recently and has handed the matter over to young Master Shu." Xiao Zhang informed him of the situation she had noticed. Shu Ziji frowned and asked, "Let Shu Shaoxi be responsible for bidding for government land? I guess Mr. Shu wants young Master Shu to achieve results as soon as possible so that he can be included on the board of directors and be given shares." Secretary Xiao Zhang expressed his opinion. Shu Ziji narrowed her eyes slightly and said, "Help me sort out the information about the land that the government is bidding for and give it to me as soon as possible." "Yes, Miss Shu." Xiao Zhang nodded and went out. Shu Ziji sat on the leather chair with a deep look in her eyes. In recent years, Shu's company has transformed from jewelry to real estate, and her authority has become less and less, and she has been increasingly sidelined. This time, his father called Shu Shaoxi to the company and gave him such an important project as bidding for government land. He must have wanted to train Shu Shaoxi as his future successor. Shu's was a group co-founded by her father and her mother. She would never allow her parents' hard work to fall into the hands of the mistress and her son. Shu Ziji rubbed her temples. Anyway, she has nothing to do now, so she might as well start a live broadcast to spice up her boring life. So she started live streaming her boring daily life. The fans who had been waiting for a long time came out and gave gifts. Shu Ziji's live broadcast continued until lunchtime. Secretary Xiao Zhang brought her the feast that had just been ordered from their hotel. Shu Ziji continued the live broadcast while eating. Nanhu hua hua, host, you only eat this much for lunch, isn't it too little? Xiao Cao Cao, host, are you losing weight? You are vegetarian, no wonder you have such a good figure. Stars in the distance, their host is so beautiful, and the way she eats is so charming. Dang, the stars sent 99 flowers from afar. I will love you for 100 million years like a yacht. Shu Ziji had been live streaming for more than half a month, and this was the first time she received a yacht. She was so excited that her face flushed, and her rosy cheeks looked extremely beautiful. Another bunch of comments praising her elegant and charming eating posture rolled in. Of course, gift giving is also indispensable. And her audience and fans are also growing steadily. Shu Ziji was very proud. She didn't expect that she would attract so many viewers just by live streaming a lunch. The comments in the barrage scrolled faster and faster. Shu Ziji occasionally caught a few questions and answered them patiently. It was not until the end of lunch that Shu Ziji said she was going to take a nap and said goodbye to the audience. After turning off the live broadcast, Shu Ziji was in a good mood. She took out her mobile phone and called her husband Mo Zishuan. After ringing several times, the phone was finally picked up. Hello, who is this? A lazy and arrogant female voice came from the other end of the phone. It wasn't the voice of her husband Mo Zishuan. Shu Ziji's eyes tightened, and she quickly asked, who are you? Where is Zishuan? I'm Liang Bingbing. Zishuan is taking a shower. Do you have something to talk to him about? The woman asked in a coquettish voice. Liang Bingbing? The female star who was recently rumored to be having an affair with her husband Mo Zishuan. Shu Ziji frowned, and her expression changed again and again. Why would this woman answer her husband Mo Zishuan's call? She said Zishuan was taking a shower. What did they do before? Countless questions flashed through Shu Ziji's mind, and she froze there, her emotions fluctuating. She told herself to stay calm, not to lose her composure, and not to misunderstand Zishuan. You must never make assumptions before you find out the truth of the matter. Are you okay? If not, I'll hang up. Liang Bingbing asked impatiently. Shu Ziji lowered her voice and said, I am Zishuan's wife. When he finishes taking a shower, ask him to call me back. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Mo Zishuan should have her phone number saved in his phone, so Liang Bingbing couldn't possibly not know who she was. She and Mo Zishuan were now living in different places, so she had no way of confirming whether he was with Liang Bingbing and what they were doing. She couldn't jump to conclusion based on Liang Bingbing's one-sided statement alone. If Mo Zishuan doesn't call her back later, it means Liang Bingbing is lying. Her husband, Mo Zishuan, is not only a big star but also the president of an entertainment company. Many female stars want to get to the top, and this is not the first time he has used such scheming tactics. Shu Ziji didn't take it seriously and continued to be busy in the office. Unexpectedly, when she was about to get off work, she actually received a call from her husband Mo Zishuan. Hello, husband. Shu Ziji quickly picked up the phone. Wife, were you looking for me just now? Mo Zishuan's magnetic voice came. Yes, but it was a woman named Liang Bingbing who answered the phone. She also said you were taking a shower. Shu Ziji tightened her lips, her expression was unpredictable, and her voice was full of displeasure. She wanted to hear how her husband Mo Zishuan explained it to her. 22 I saw my husband checking into a hotel room with a female star. Wife, you misunderstood. I fell into the lake while filming just now, and Bingbing and my assistant sent me back to the hotel. You happened to call me at that time, and Bingbing answered the phone for me. Mo Zishuan explained in a gentle voice, and it didn't sound like he was lying at all. When Shu Ziji heard that he fell into the lake while filming, she immediately became anxious, and without further questioning, she quickly asked with concern, what happened? Are you hurt? It's nothing serious. It was the staff's mistake. The wire got loose. Fortunately, I fell into the lake. I just took it as a bath. Mo Zishuan said cheerfully. Shu Ziji finally felt relieved, but still couldn't help complaining, be more careful next time, I told you not to take any more roles, but you wouldn't listen. Although Mo Zishuan is a first-line male star, he has already founded his own entertainment company with the support of the Mo family and became a behind-the-scenes boss. In fact, he doesn't need to work so hard to film anymore. However, he still insisted on taking on this role, and because of this, the couple have been separated for more than half a year. Because Shu Ziji had to take care of the Shu family, she had no time to visit the set. She hadn't seen her husband for more than half a year. For this reason, her mother-in-law Shu Wenchen often complained to her that she had been married for so long but there was still no good news. "Wife, don't I want to finish the filming as soon as possible and come back to be with you earlier? We agreed before that I will come back after I finish filming this movie and try to have a baby with you, so that you can get pregnant with my child as soon as possible," Mo Zixuan said with a grin. "You are so annoying." Shu Ziji blushed and said coquettishly. However, Mo Zixuan's words still touched her heart. Her mother-in-law had already asked her several times about the baby in her belly. If Mo Zixuan doesn't come back, she won't be able to explain herself if she still can't get pregnant. "We are a legal couple, and having children is a natural thing. How can it be so unserious? I came back to have a baby with you, that's the serious thing," Mo Zixuan said seriously. Shu Ziji's eyes moved slightly. "When will you come back?" "It's almost done. My part will be finished soon." Mo Zixuan raised his eyebrows frivolously, with a smile on his handsome face. "Okay, then I'll wait for you to come back." Shu Ziji blinked and replied to him in a soft tone. "Be good, my wife, call me if you miss me." Mo Zixuan couldn't help but give her an intimate kiss, saying reluctantly, "Who misses you? I won't tell you anymore." Shu Ziji pouted her red lips, smiled charmingly, and hung up the phone. It was time to get off work, and she had planned to drive home directly. Unexpectedly, as soon as I arrived at the underground parking lot, I received a call for help from my best friend Shinjili. "Ziji, come to the Emperor Hotel and save me." Shinjili told her the address of the hotel. Her voice was very urgent. When Shu Ziji heard her best friend's anxious voice, her heart sank and she realized that something might have happened. I quickly got in the car and drove to the hotel as fast as possible. The Dahao Hotel is a 5-star hotel in S City. It was built before the liberation and has a certain history. It also integrates modern luxurious decoration. It is both high-end and full of historical atmosphere. It is a place where celebrities from all walks of life at home and abroad stay when they come to S City. Shu Ziji rushed to the hotel and just walked into the lobby. She saw a woman wrapped in a white bathrobe, with a good figure and slightly messy curly hair sitting in the lounge area. She walked over and saw that the woman was indeed her best friend Shinjili. When Shinjili saw her, she rushed over to her as if she had seen a savior. "Ziji, hurry up, lend me your card. My dad has frozen my bank account. I don't have money to pay for the room, and I even owe the gigolo fees." Of course, she whispered the last sentence while biting Shu Ziji's ear. Shu Ziji was speechless for a moment. "You called me here in a hurry, just to pay for your room. Yeah, if you don't renew my subscription, I can't just sit here wearing this. My things are still in the suite," Shinjili said as she rummaged through her bag, took out a bank card, and pulled her to the front desk. Shu Ziji helped her pay the room fee, and Shinjili asked her to extend the stay for a few more days. It seemed that she planned to stay in the hotel. "What's going on? Is your dad forcing you to go on a blind date again?" Shu Ziji asked with a raised eyebrow. "It was his mistress who instigated me to marry her off early so that I could make room for her and her daughter." Shinjili rolled her eyes and snorted coldly. "It's not that easy. I won't get married. I will fight them to the death. Let's see what they can do to me. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you don't get married, are you going to keep looking for a gigolo?" Shu Ziji couldn't help but sigh. Shinjili's family situation is similar to hers. Their fathers had affairs when they were rich. That's why they became good friends. The difference is that Shu Ziji's mother had passed away, and she was taken back to the country by her father to obey her family's arrangements, marrying into the Mo family and marrying her current husband, Mo Zixuan. As for Shinjili, she has always been playing around, often going to bars, looking for gigolos, changing men countless times, and her life is a mess. She has become a veritable dandy rich second generation. Men are unreliable nowadays. So what if you get married? You still cheat all the time. Didn't your Zixuan have a scandal with a female star? Shinjili shook her head, as if she had seen through it. My Zixuan is an exception. He is a big star. Many women are eager to be in the news with him to gain popularity. But Sichuan is still loyal to me. Shu Ziji said confidently. Loyalty? If he is really devoted to you, he wouldn't have a scandal about you every now and then? Tell me, has your Sichuan ever been involved in a scandal with a female star while filming in all these years? Shinjili snorted coldly, not taking it seriously. This is not a job requirement for him, it's just publicity. Shu Ziji had just helped her husband clarify things when suddenly a familiar figure passed by her eyes. The man was tall, wearing a baseball cap, and walking forward with his head lowered. It was obvious that he didn't want to be recognized. But Shu Ziji still felt very familiar with it at first sight. Looking at this man's back, why does he look so similar to her husband Mo Zixuan? But how is that possible? Her husband, Mo Zixuan, was clearly on a business trip filming in another city and had just spoken to her on the phone, so how could he appear in a 5-star hotel in City S? Shu Ziji was just wondering, and then she saw another woman appear at the place where the man had just appeared in the corridor. The woman was also dressed concealedly, with a hat on her head, large sunglasses on her face, and a scarf around her neck in such hot weather. She acted furtively and sneakily, as if she was afraid that others would discover her presence in the hotel. Seeing this man and woman appear from the same place one after the other and leave in opposite directions, it was obvious that they had just checked into a hotel and didn't want to be discovered. 23. Is her husband lying to her? The woman lowered the brim of her hat, looked around cautiously, and walked towards them. It seems that he is ready to check out. When passing by Shu Ziji, she deliberately stopped and looked up at her. Coincidentally, Shu Ziji also looked at her. This glance allowed Shu Ziji to see the woman's appearance clearly. Liang Bingbing. That's right, it's the big star Liang Bingbing who has been rumored to be having an affair with her husband Mo Zixuan recently. Shu Ziji was struck by lightning, her whole body froze in place, and her mind was in a mess. Wasn't Liang Bingbing filming in another city with her husband Mo Zixuan? Why was she here? When she was talking to Mo Zixuan on the phone just now, Mo Zixuan told her on the phone that he had just fallen into the water while filming, and it was Liang Bingbing and his assistant who sent him back to their hotel over there. Is her husband lying to her? He wasn't filming outside the city at all, but was staying in this hotel with Liang Bingbing? Shu Ziji's whole body froze. She was so frightened that she could hardly stand and almost fell down. Fortunately, her best friend Shinjili next to her supported her in time. Shinjili looked at her pale face and asked in confusion, Ziji, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so bad? Shu Ziji raised her head, her face full of difficulty. I seem to have seen Liang Bingbing just now. Liang Bingbing? Where is she? Shinjili asked in surprise. It's the woman who just walked past us. Shu Ziji pointed with her eyes. Isn't she filming in another city with your husband? Why is she here? Shinjili turned her head and looked over, and said in a daze, and suddenly seemed to react, you are not suspicious. Shu Ziji made a gesture to keep quiet, speak more quietly. What are you afraid of when you catch a mistress? Shinjili raised her head, pulled Shu Ziji's arm and walked away. What? Shu Ziji looked at her in confusion. Shinjili quickly searched among the crowd and finally found Liang Bingbing who had just checked out and was walking towards the door. She pulled Shu Ziji and ran over. Go ask her clearly. If she dares to seduce your husband, I will punish her. Seeing her so impulsive, Shu Ziji quickly pulled her back and said, Jolie, calm down. What if I saw it wrong? You are just deceiving yourself, aren't you? How could you be wrong about this? Shinjili scolded with anger on her face. What she hated most was the mistress who seduced a married man. Jolie, I'm not deceiving myself. I just want to make things clear first. Even if that person is really Liang Bingbing, we can't be sure that the person who just checked into a room with her is Zi Xian. Shu Ziji tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart and said calmly. Shinjili hesitated when she heard this, but recently there have been reports online about your husband and Liang Bingbing's affair. If Liang Bingbing really came to their hotel to check into a room with a man, your husband would be the biggest suspect. Shu Ziji frowned. Suspicion is suspicion, but we don't have any evidence. If Liang Bingbing refuses to admit it and turns against me, this matter will be difficult to handle. What should we do then? Shinjili asked dejectedly. I'll call Zixuan first and ask about the situation. Shu Ziji said as she took out her cell phone and called Mo Zixuan. The phone was quickly picked up, and Mo Zixuan's frivolous voice came, Wife, you miss me again so soon. Shu Ziji asked solemnly, "Husband, have you been filming with Liang Bingbing recently?" "Wife, have you seen the latest scandal?" Mo Zixuan laughed. "Tell me the truth, did you and her turn your fake play into reality?" Shu Ziji asked with a snort. Mo Zixuan immediately retorted, "How dare I, honey, I only have you in my heart. Don't believe those rumors. I told you a long time ago that we often hype this kind of news in our industry to increase the exposure of the movie. It is also a work requirement. Honey, you must understand me." Shu Ziji understood his job. She knew that he was a top star and that there were many things in their circle that were beyond their control. But he couldn't lie to himself. Mo Zixuan told her that he and Liang Bingbing were filming together, but she had clearly bumped into Liang Bingbing in the hotel just now. "Are you sure Liang Bingbing was right next to you just now?" Shu Ziji asked with narrowed eyes. "What's wrong, wife? Have you heard any rumors? Are you still doubting me?" Mo Zixuan's voice sounded a little anxious. "Just answer me if it's okay." Shu Ziji asked directly. Mo Zixuan patiently explained, "It was Bingbing who sent me to their hotel just now. You just happened to get a call at that time. She answered your call for me and then left." "What happened?" "Nothing, I just saw the recent scandal between you and her and couldn't help but want to ask you clearly," Shu Ziji said with a curl of her lips, still feeling a little complicated. The city where her husband was filming was far away from City S. Even if Liang Bingbing left his place and took a plane to their hotel here, it wouldn't be so fast. Could it be that her husband was still lying to her? Mo Zixuan smiled and comforted him, "You haven't adapted yet. This is how my line of work works. I'll come back to accompany you after I finish filming this drama. I won't take on other dramas in the future, so that you won't have any wild thoughts." "You said it, husband. I really don't want to be separated from you for so long," Shu Ziji said sincerely. "Be good, baby. Call me anytime if you need anything." Mo Zixuan coaxed her gently. "Yeah, okay." Shu Ziji stayed with him for a while before hanging up the phone. The tone in which Mo Zixuan spoke to her was still so gentle and caring, and it didn't sound like he was cheating on her. Could it be that she was overly suspicious? But she clearly ran into Liang Bingbing just now. How could this be explained? "Ziji, what happened? What did your husband say?" Shinjuli asked anxiously. "He said Liang Bingbing wasn't with him," Shu Ziji said thoughtfully. "Could it be that you saw it wrong just now? But even if there really is something wrong between him and Liang Bingbing, he won't admit it. How about this? I will help you investigate this Liang Bingbing and see who she has been with recently, and whether the scandal between her and your husband is true." Shinjili patted her shoulder and took the initiative to suggest. "Okay, thank you for your help, Julie." Shu Ziji nodded with some relief. "What's the problem? We are all sisters." Shinjili put her arm around her shoulders. "Come on, go drink with me." "Drinking? I haven't had dinner yet," Shu Ziji said hesitantly. "It's my treat, we'll eat and drink at the same time," Shinjili said with a cheerful smile. 24 I peeked at her taking off her clothes and taking a bath. Shu Ziji and her best friend Shinjili went to a newly opened French restaurant. The two of them ate and talked. Shu Ziji was thinking about something and unconsciously drank a few more glasses of red wine. When she left the restaurant, her head was dizzy and she felt a little drunk. It was Shinjili who asked the driver to take her back to the Mo family mansion. Shu Ziji stroked her forehead, staggered into her room, and without paying attention to closing the door, walked towards the bathroom. "Young master, you're back." Mo Yuchen had just finished a busy day at work and a social drinking party, and returned to the Mo residence exhausted. The housekeeper, Aunt Wu, and the servants greeted respectfully at the door. "Yes." Mo Yuchen responded and went upstairs with his briefcase. When passing by his younger brother Mo Zixuan's room, his footsteps paused slightly. Just as he was about to leave, he found that the door was not closed and there was a sound of running water coming from inside. Mo Yuchen had just drunk a lot of wine at the party tonight. Under the stimulation of alcohol, his curiosity was magnified. He couldn't resist the temptation and slowly pushed open the door and walked in. The room was empty, and there was no one on the large European-style bed. Only the sound of running water came from the direction of the bathroom. "Is she taking a shower?" Mo Yuchen loosened his tie and walked over uncontrollably. There was no light in the bedroom, so it was dim, but the light in the bathroom was on, as bright as day. The bathroom attached to the bedroom is only separated by a glass door, and the glass is slightly frosted, so you can see the hazy spring scenery inside from the outside. Since there was no light outside, you couldn't see outside from the bathroom. The bathroom is very spacious, about the size of a bedroom. The walls are covered with non-slip high-end marble tiles. The white jacuzzi is like a small swimming pool. The bottom of the pool is designed with pure gold. The crystal nozzles around it are made of Italian crystal, sparkling under the light. When Mo Yuchen just walked to the bathroom door, Shu Ziji was taking off her clothes inside. Her outer skirt had been removed by her legs, and she was only wearing a black lace bra and panties. Mo Yuchen paused, looking at the beautiful scenery in front of him. His eyes suddenly became deep. Shu Ziji drank a little too much tonight, and her head was dizzy at this moment. She just wanted to take a shower and go to bed as soon as possible, but she didn't notice that a man had entered her room. After taking off her outer skirt, she reached behind her back and unfastened the buckle of her bra, and her upper body was immediately exposed. They are white and lusterless, just like two blooming snow lotuses, so tender and so alluring. Mo Yuchen's Adam's apple couldn't help but roll, and he almost had a nosebleed. His whole body suddenly became hot and unbearable. But it's not over yet. Shu Ziji quickly took off her underwear, the only thing left to cover her body. In this way, her beautiful body was completely exposed to the air. A flat and sexy belly, a waist that is only about 1.8 feet long, a firm abdomen without any excess fat, two slender and well-proportioned snow-white thighs, a firm and slightly raised buttocks, and the skin all over the body is pink, white, delicate and shiny. Her mature and seductive figure is a beauty that no man can resist. Mo Yuchen only took one look and felt that his body was about to explode. He had never had such a strong feeling before. Just by seeing it, before touching it, Mo Yuchen was about to lose control. He suppressed his urge to want her so badly that he did not immediately open the bathroom door, rush in and knock her down. Mo Yuchen took deep breaths desperately, warning himself again and again that she was now his brother's wife and had nothing to do with him anymore. Only then did he clench his fists tightly and suppress the anger in his heart. But this unconscious temptation continues. After Shu Ziji took off her clothes, she walked into the bathtub with her slender feet and turned on the crystal shower head. She closed her eyes and washed her body. He wiped his hands back and forth on her body, passing over her neck, her chest, her abdomen, her waist, and all the way down. The black hair cascaded softly in front of her chest, and the crystal red lips shone with an alluring luster, as if tempting him. Mo Yuchen's breathing became rapid, and a flame burned in his dark and deep eyes. He tried hard to force it back, but he couldn't put it out. Instead, it burned more and more fiercely, as if it was going to burn him to death. He wanted her madly. But just before his long legs were about to step into the bathroom, he turned around and forced himself to leave with a strong willpower without even looking at her. When Mo Yuchen rushed out the door, he accidentally bumped into someone. This person was none other than his nominal wife Liang Ziru, who had just returned from an audition. Chen? Liang Ziru happened to pass by Mo Zishuan and Shu Ziji's room. She didn't expect to run into her husband hurrying out. Her face suddenly changed, and she looked at the scene in disbelief. How did you come out of Zishuan's room? Liang Ziru couldn't help but stepped forward to question, her voice trembling. Mo Yuchen's expression could not help but darken, his thin lips tightly pursed, intimidating without being angry, his low voice cold and tough. Don't scream so loudly, do you want to alarm my parents? Liang Ziru's emotions were in turmoil. She grabbed Mo Yuchen's clothes and said angrily, Are you still afraid of disturbing my parents? Let me ask you, what did you do in Zishuan's room just now? Zishuan is still filming outside, so he hasn't come back yet. Now Shu Ziji is the only one living in the room. What shameful things did you do in there just now? What did I just do? How does it have anything to do with you? Do you really think of yourself as the eldest lady of the Mo family? Don't forget your own identity. Mo Yuchen frowned slightly, his deep eyes seemed particularly cold, and he reminded her coldly word by word. Liang Ziru's eyes narrowed, and her whole body froze, as if she had been struck by lightning. Mo Yuchen stared at her with his dark eyes, which were so sharp and fierce that people could not help but feel an invisible sense of oppression. Don't tell anyone about what you saw today, or you know the consequences. His deep voice seemed to be covered with a layer of ice. He left after saying a warning. Liang Ziru's face was pale, her whole body leaned against the wall, and she fell down limply. My heart was filled with pain. She couldn't accept this reality. Although she and Mo Yuchen had a marriage of convenience and each got what they wanted, he gave her the title of the eldest lady of the Mo family and helped her quickly rise to fame in the entertainment industry. She agreed to have a fake marriage with him and be his nominal wife to deal with the two elders of the Mo family. But she always thought that after living together for such a long time, Mo Yuchen must have feelings for her, and she would become his real wife sooner or later. 25. Seducing her husband. But I didn't expect that I had become Mo Yuchen's shield without realizing it. It was clear that he had not yet forgotten that bitch Shu Ziji. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into that bitch's room so late. Who knows what dirty things they did in there just now. Liang Ziru clenched her fists tightly, her heart filled with resentment. Why is it that Mo Yuchen still thinks about Shu Ziji even though she is married to Mo Zishuan? This must be the real reason why Mo Yuchen wanted to have a fake marriage with me. It turned out that he had always had another woman in his heart, and this woman was none other than his brother's wife, Shu Ziji. Liang Ziru gritted her teeth in anger, her eyes full of jealousy. The next day, Shu Ziji woke up from a nap, washed up, opened the door, and prepared to go downstairs for breakfast. After marrying into the Mo family, you didn't think that no one would know about the shady things you did behind the scenes, did you? A sarcastic female voice came from behind her. Shu Ziji turned around and saw that it was her sister-in-law Liang Ziru. She didn't know when she appeared at her door, and Shu Ziji was almost scared by her. Sister-in-law, what do you mean by coming to tell me this so early in the morning? Shu Ziji frowned and asked in confusion, what did I do that is shameful? You know the answer yourself, do you still need me to point it out? Liang Ziru sneered disdainfully, her eyes sinister and sharp, don't think that I don't know that you seduced Yu Chen behind my back. Shu Ziji frowned slightly, and said in a neither humble nor arrogant voice, Sister-in-law, my brother and I were indeed boyfriend and girlfriend before, but since I married Zishuan, I have always abided by my duties and never done anything beyond the limit. It's you who is suspicious all the time. Liang Ziru didn't expect that she would so confidently distance herself from the matter and instead blame her for the wrongdoings. In the past, she might have been deceived by her innocent face, but last night, she saw her husband Mo Yuchen coming out of her room with her own eyes. How could she tolerate this? Even though her marriage to Mo Yuchen was a fake one, she loved him in her heart and hoped that one day he would really marry her and let her become the real eldest lady of the Mo family. She would never allow anyone to sabotage and snatch away the man who originally belonged to her. Bang! Liang Ziru was filled with anger. She raised her hand without hesitation and slapped Shu Ziji hard. The clear sound of slapping echoed in the corridor, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Shu Ziji never expected that Liang Ziru would suddenly and impulsively slap her in the face. She was caught off guard and was stunned by her, with a burning pain on her cheek. Sister-in-law, are you crazy? She frowned even more tightly and stared at her in disbelief. Looking at the 5 clear slap marks on Shu Ziji's cheek, Liang Ziru withdrew her hand in a daze, and felt a little uneasy in her heart. Although she had no regrets in teaching this bitch a lesson, and she had wanted to slap her a long time ago, Liang Ziru couldn't help but feel a little scared after she did it. What would be Mo Yuchen's reaction if he knew about this? Would he be so angry that he would kick him out of the Mo family? I have told you more than once that since I married Zishuan, I have no connection with Mo Yuchen. Shu Ziji really couldn't understand Liang Ziru's behavior. She tried her best to suppress her anger and made things clear to her all at once. Do you think I will believe you if you say that? I only believe my own eyes. Liang Ziru curled her lips coldly, baring her eyes, and warned in a sharp voice, since you have married Zishuan, you must recognize your identity and stop fantasizing that you and Yu Chen may have something else. My patience is limited. Today I am just teaching you a small lesson. Stay away from my husband in the future. After saying that, he left arrogantly. Shu Ziji covered her cheek in pain, frowned and stared at her leaving back, feeling a little angry and aggrieved. Liang Ziru had questioned her relationship with Mo Yuchen more than once, and today she went even further and actually slapped herself. If it weren't for the fact that she was her sister-in-law, Shu Ziji really didn't want to swallow this humiliation. Liang Ziru is always making up stories and being suspicious. Obviously, after she married Mo Zishuan, she had always kept her distance from Mo Yuchen and had never done anything inappropriate, but Liang Ziru kept pestering her and always suspected that she had seduced her husband. Shu Ziji felt really innocent in her heart and wanted to call her husband Mo Zishuan to tell him about the injustice she had suffered in the Mo family today. Before she could take out her cell phone, footsteps suddenly sounded behind her. Shu Ziji's heart tightened. No matter who their visitor was, how could she face others in this state? So without thinking, she turned around and walked back to her room, turned the doorknob, pushed the door open and walked in. However, just as she turned around and was about to close the door, a large hand suddenly pressed on her door. Shu Ziji was startled and looked up, only to see Mo Zhuqian's tall figure standing in front of her. "Uncle, why is it you?" Shu Ziji asked in surprise. "Let me in." There was a faint dark light in Mo Zhuqian's deep eyes, which fell on her red and swollen cheek. His eyes darkened and his body tensed up instantly. "No." Shu Ziji blocked the door and didn't dare to let him in. How could she let Mo Zhuqian into her room in broad daylight? If someone saw her, who knows what they would say about her behind her back? Hasn't she learned her lesson enough? Aren't you afraid of being seen by others as you're arguing with me at the door like this? Mo Zhuqian seemed to be able to read her mind. He raised his thin lips coldly, his deep eyes tinged with a hint of resentment, and asked sarcastically in a deep voice. Shu Ziji's body stiffened and her heartbeat suddenly became disordered. Just when she let her guard down, Mo Zhuqian exerted force, strode into her room, and pushed Shu Ziji against the door. "Uncle, you..." Shu Ziji was panicked and struggled subconsciously. Mo Zhuqian fixed her body and controlled her between himself and the door. He lifted her chin with his slender fingers, and his dark eyes stared quietly at the clear fingerprints on her cheek. His handsome face suddenly became gloomy, and waves of undercurrents gathered in his eyes. Was it Liang Ziru who beat him? He asked word by word in a cold and heavy voice. Shu Ziji's eyes were stunned, her mind was a little confused, and complex emotions were churning in her heart. How did Mo Zhuqian know that it was Liang Ziru who beat her? Could it be that he was nearby and witnessed it all? She took a deep breath, trying to calm her heartbeat, and asked tentatively, "Uncle, did you see everything just now?" Shu Ziji couldn't help but wonder, if Mo Zhuqian saw Liang Ziru hitting her, would he also misunderstand that she seduced her elder brother Mo Yuchen? 26 My uncle wants to give her medicine. Mo Zhuqian narrowed his peach blossom eyes deeply, and the expression on his handsome face was unfathomable. He opened his thin lips and asked back, "What did I see?" Shu Ziji was stunned for a moment, her face slightly stiff, and a hint of doubt flashed across her eyes. Didn't Mo Zhuqian see anything just now? Was he just guessing? In that case, there was no need for her to confess and make it seem as if she had deliberately complained to him. Shu Ziji restrained her eyes, raised her head, and smiled calmly. "Nothing." Mo Zhuqian's eyes suddenly darkened, and his cool fingertips touched her swollen face again, with a hint of reprimand in his tone. "Weren't you quite powerful when you kicked me last time? Why are you still bullied by Liang Ziru? Which eye of yours saw me being bullied?" Shu Ziji heard that he was mocking her, and she couldn't help but frown and instinctively retorted. Mo Zhuqian raised his eyebrows, looked at her deeply, and smiled wickedly. "Just now, I saw it with both eyes." "You?" Shu Ziji's face froze. She didn't expect that he had really witnessed what happened just now. She couldn't help but feel a little awkward and wanted to break free awkwardly. "Let me go. This is none of your business. Don't move." Mo Zhuqian hugged her waist tightly, pulled her face close to him, and carefully checked her injuries. Her swollen cheek made his eyes tighten. At this time, the two of them were very close, his tall body almost pressed against hers. Shu Ziji subconsciously leaned back, but her back was against the door, and she couldn't retreat at all. Such an ambiguous posture, and in her room, Shu Ziji couldn't help but tremble in her heart. She was just about to raise her foot to kick him again, but Mo Zhuqian suddenly pressed his fingertips hard on her swollen wound, and Shu Ziji couldn't help but gasp. "Hiss." She frowned in pain, feeling annoyed in her heart. Did this man do this on purpose? "Do you have any medicine?" Mo Zhuqian stared at her wound without blinking, with some unknown luster in his eyes, rising and falling, and his deep voice had a magnetic texture. "No." Shu Ziji shook her head. The next moment, Mo Zhuqian suddenly let go of her and left. Shu Ziji subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief, only to find this man inexplicable. She leaned against the door alone, gasping for breath, and it took her a long time to calm her breathing. Now that Zishuan is not here, she doesn't want to have too much involvement with the men of the Mo family. She just wants to stay here quietly and wait for her husband to come back from his business trip. Shu Ziji stood up straight and was about to close the door, but unexpectedly someone acted faster than her. Mo Zhuqian squeezed in again, holding a box of plaster in his hand, and his long legs closed the door. Now he and Shu Ziji were the only ones left in the room. Looking at the tall and evil man who broke into her room again, Shu Ziji frowned even deeper, and instinctively showed a hint of defense in her eyes. "Uncle, what are you going to do?" "Go to the sofa." Mo Zhuqian raised his eyes slightly and gave a light order. "What?" Shu Ziji froze in place, staring at him in surprise. Seeing that she refused to obey and was staring at him defensively, Mo Zhuqian simply grabbed her clothes and pulled her towards the sofa. Mo Zhuqian's original intention was to apply medicine to Shu Ziji, and the sofa was facing the window with better light, so he suggested that she go on the sofa. But Shu Ziji didn't know what Mo Zhuqian was thinking. She thought that he broke into her room again, pulled her around, and said some ambiguous words, intending to do something bad to her. Of course she couldn't cooperate, so she just started to struggle. "Let me go! Let me go!" Shu Ziji struggled to break free and shouted in shame and anger. But Mo Zhuqian still pulled at her dress, looking evil and wild, and did not allow her to resist at all. In desperation, Shu Ziji suddenly raised her foot and kicked him hard on the calf. Because she was wearing high heels, the force of the kick was unclear, and Mo Zhuqian let go of her in pain. Shu Ziji immediately turned around and ran towards the door without thinking. Before she had taken a few steps, Mo Zhuqian caught up with her. He stretched out his long arms, grabbed Shu Ziji's dress, and tried to pull her back. Shu Ziji was not willing to compromise, so she struggled with all her might. The two of them kept pulling and tugging, neither refusing to give in. The dress Shu Ziji was wearing today was already thin to begin with, and could not withstand such pulling. With a sound of ripping, a big hole was torn in her dress and it slipped off her body. Shu Ziji only felt a chill on her body. When she looked down, she saw that her dress was torn and fell to the ground. She was now only wearing a bra and underwear. "Arr!" Shu Ziji screamed instinctively and hugged herself subconsciously with her hands, but a large area of her body was still exposed. Mo Zhuqian was startled, and was also stunned by this sudden situation. Looking at the woman standing in front of him in only underwear, his eyes darkened a little, and his breathing became rapid. The woman in front of him had long hair cascading down her shoulders, and her skin was as white as cream, which looked even more delicate under the sunlight. Her perfect body curves made the man's blood boil. "What are you looking at? Turn your back." Shu Ziji's cheeks turned red and she yelled at him in embarrassment and anger. Who would have thought that Mo Zhuqian not only did not avoid it, but instead admired her wantonly, his burning gaze lingering all over her body. Shu Ziji's chest was filled with rage. She could no longer bear it. She gritted her teeth in anger and said, "Mo Zhuqian." Mo Zhuqian then withdrew his gaze, but he moved forward with his legs spread out. "I didn't expect you to have such a great figure." His voice was a little hoarse, his peach blossom eyes were filled with a sparkling smile, and his thin lips were raised playfully. "Don't come over here!" Shu Ziji shouted anxiously. She was scared by the overly hot light in his eyes and she just wanted to escape immediately. However, before Shu Ziji took a step, her slender waist was successfully restrained by a pair of powerful hands, making her unable to move. "What are you doing?" "Oh, 27 be his woman." Before he could finish his words, his lips were blocked. Mo Zhuqian's tongue forcefully pried open her pearly teeth and went straight in, sweeping up all her flavors. The hot breath from his body surrounded her tightly, like a storm that was about to swallow her up. The more she resisted, the more fierce he became. The domineering and lingering kiss spread between the two of them like a spark. Shu Ziji was protesting at first, but later her stiff body became uncontrollably limp under his powerful and passionate kiss. Shu Ziji's mind was in a mess. She didn't know when Mo Zhuqian picked her up and pressed her down on the sofa. She was dizzy and her clothes fell off. The cool air penetrated her skin and made Shu Ziji regain consciousness instantly. She opened her eyes in panic and tried to push him away. "No, don't do this." But the man who was provoked by him would never let her go easily. Shu Ziji struggled in vain, so she made up her mind and just bit it. Suddenly, Mo Zhuqian left her lips in pain, and widened his eyes in disbelief. "You actually bit me. How about I bite you? If you dare to bully me again, I will do something cruel to you." Shu Ziji pounded his chest angrily and wanted to get up in a hurry. Little did she know that the more she struggled, the more uncomfortable Mo Zhiqian felt. If you move again, I'll give it a try, Mo Zhiqian said in a hoarse voice and glared at her with a warning look. This woman was simply a tormenting demon. As long as he touched her, he would definitely lose control. Mo Zhiqian's slightly rough hands pressed tightly against her silky smooth skin. The wonderful touch could drive people crazy. He really wanted to do whatever it took to leave his mark on her skin. Shu Ziji clearly felt his change and was so scared that she dared not move. You, please don't do anything rash, she screamed in a trembling voice, her heart broken. How could he react to her? Shu Ziji bit her lips in grievance and clenched her hands into fists. Mo Zhiqian took a deep breath and suppressed the desire in his body. He hugged her tightly and forced himself to look away from her until his disordered breathing gradually calmed down. Shu Ziji was in a state of embarrassment as she was restrained by him, her cheeks slightly flushed, like a ripe tomato. Mo Zhiqian managed to suppress the fire in his body, then he picked up the ointment next to him, dipped his fingers in it, and applied it little by little on her swollen and injured cheek. Shu Ziji gasped in pain, but Mo Zhiqian applied the medicine on her face without mercy. What did you apply on me? Shu Ziji couldn't help asking because cold sweat broke out on her forehead due to the pain. This unique special medicine can quickly reduce the swelling on your face, Mo Zhiqian said as he applied it. The touch of the skin on her face was startlingly good. Mo Zhiqian had never known that this woman had such magical powers. His self-control, which always enabled him to have an advantage over women, collapsed completely when he met her. When Shu Ziji heard him say that the ointment could reduce swelling quickly, she thought that she had to go to work at Shu's company soon and she couldn't go there with a swollen face, so she endured the pain and let him apply the ointment on her. After applying the medicine, Mo Zhiqian should have let her go, but he was reluctant to do so. Ever since he met her in France, he always thought of her in his dreams over the years. Now the woman he missed in his dreams was in his arms, and Mo Zhiqian felt an unprecedented sense of throbbing in his heart. Mo Zhiqian stretched out his large, calloused hand and caressed her pretty face lovingly. His originally steady breathing gradually became heavy. Be my woman. He leaned down, his deep gaze met hers directly, and made a domineering request. Are you crazy? This is impossible. Shu Ziji was frightened by his words. Her face changed in surprise and she refused without hesitation. Why? Mo Zhiqian asked persistently with a hint of hurt in his eyes, and his godly and handsome face turned gloomy and dim. I'm already married, and you're my uncle. Shu Ziji directly pointed out their identities, and it was impossible for them to be together. So what? Zishuan already has another woman, you can divorce him. Mo Zhiqian narrowed his eyes slightly, his deep eyes were dark, and his frivolous and low voice carried an unquestionable tone. Stop joking. Not to mention that my husband is just having a scandal, even if he really has a woman outside, I can't divorce him and be with his uncle. Shu Ziji thought his proposal was too ridiculous. She didn't need to consider it at all and could reject him right now. But I want you. Mo Zhiqian's eyes darkened, and he ran his slender fingers through her long hair. He lowered his head and kissed her hair in fascination, taking a deep sniff of her unique fragrance. Her scent is like opium, so good that you don't want to let go. Uncle, calm down, I don't like you. Shu Ziji's cheek twitched, and she dodged his kiss in panic, wishing she could stay away from this man immediately. You don't like me? Then who do you like? Mo Zhiqian's facial features tensed instantly when he heard that, a hint of anger gradually spread in his eyes, and his voice became gloomy again. I'm already married and have a husband. Who do you think I like? Uncle, please respect yourself and don't mess around. Shu Ziji looked at him earnestly and said with a frown. She had long heard that the younger uncle of the Mo family was uninhibited and unrestrained, a man who did not follow any rules, but she had not expected that he would not even let his niece-in-law go. So the person you like is your husband, Mo Zishuan. Mo Zhiqian's eyes were surging with turmoil. He glanced at her meaningfully, and the smile on his lips was indescribably strange. Are you sure he likes you too? Shu Ziji frowned subconsciously and argued without hesitation. Since he is my husband and is willing to marry me as his wife, he must like me. Really? But sometimes a man is willing to marry a woman, not necessarily because of love. Mo Zhiqian narrowed his peach blossom eyes deeply, raised a cold arc at the corners of his mouth, and spoke every word piercingly.